Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio Chapter 276. Another breakthrough in genetic level inside the time-space corridor. Qin Hao sat in the void, surrounded by complex time-space turbulence. Chaotic time law and space law constantly washing over everything. The surrounding space shattered from time to time, and fragments of space emanated from the space interlayer, entering the time-space corridor, and under the power of time law and space law, they transformed into sharp blades. Some space fragments even formed a vast river, mixed with the power of time and space. Each time this long river of time and space swept through, it brought immense pressure. In such a dangerous environment, Qin Hao showed no fear on his face, calmly observing everything around him, his mind completely immersed in cultivation. The moment the surrounding energy approached Qin Hao, it would be resisted by the great Zhu heavenly star's formation formed by the sealing star around him. Even wisps of energy were transformed into the most primitive energy by the great Zhu heavenly star's formation and absorbed by Qin Hao's body. The energy continuously circulated within his body through his acupoints and pores, integrating into every corner of his body, blood, muscles, cells, etc. Every tiny particle of his body began to undergo transformation under the influence of the energy. However, Qin Hao, who was in cultivation, did not notice this at all. He was completely engrossed in the fusion of time law and space law. The spontaneous, practical application of the fusion of time law and space law at the moment, Zhu Guang, Honored One, and Venerable Jiashi attacked allowed Qin Hao to see an opportunity for the breakthrough of fusion laws. It was merely an opportunity, but for Qin Hao, this was the key to breakthrough. After arriving at the time-space corridor, Qin Hao began to rapidly deduce the fusion of the two laws with the help of the surrounding time and space energy. The two sides, originally extremely repulsive, began to fit together at this moment, and the fusion became very smooth, captivating Qin Hao's entire mind. As the surrounding energy integrated, the cultivation technique of the Crimson Bright Nine Heavens diagram also began to operate spontaneously. For the cultivation of the Crimson Bright Nine Heavens diagram, Qin Hao had already integrated it into his bones. The cultivation method itself was a long process of accumulation. It was an accumulation of energy and also an accumulation of the transformation process. After encountering a bottleneck, the cultivation speed of the Crimson Bright Nine Heavens diagram had been very slow, almost ceasing to operate, just waiting for the bottleneck to be broken. Now, under the stimulation of the surrounding time law and space law, the operating speed of the Crimson Bright Nine Heavens diagram began to accelerate continuously. The 365 worlds and acupoints within his body also transformed into giant pumps at this moment, constantly devouring the surrounding energy. Even the time law and space law that had not been fully converted were directly absorbed into the world, and under the powerful world power, they were directly transformed into resources for bodily transformation. For 10 years, Qin Hao sat motionless in place, his eyes constantly fixed on the changing time law and space law before him, clearly completely immersed in his comprehension. The fusion of time law and space law had reached the final stage of the first level and was about to enter the second level, so Qin Hao dared not be distracted in the slightest at this time. Space-time law itself was very abstruse, and once fully fused, the power unleashed would be far beyond imagination, much stronger than lower law. At the same time, Qin Hao's body was also about to undergo transformation. For 10 years, continuously absorbing the surrounding energy, both the worlds within his body and various parts of his body had reached their peak, slowly entering the process of transformation. Only an opportunity was needed to complete the breakthrough. It's done. The second level of time law and space law fusion has finally been achieved. As the fusion of time law and space law broke through to the second level, Qin Hao couldn't help but feel a bit excited. However, before he could feel the power of the second level of fusion laws, a wave of pain struck. His body instantly began to dismember, gradually turning into the smallest particles. The crimson bright nine heavens diagram has broken through. Quickly realizing the source of his bodily changes, Qin Hao dared not be negligent in the slightest, guarding his mind closely and fully operating the crimson bright nine heavens diagram. His body transformed into the most minute particles, and after countless particles formed, they began to rapidly absorb the surrounding cosmic energy. At the same time, the 365 worlds and 365 stars operated at full power at this moment, and the Zhu Tian star array seemed to have transformed into a glutton, instantly sweeping away the surrounding energy. All the energy within 100,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles, 10 million miles, 100 million miles, was rapidly devoured, and energy from beyond 100 million miles also converged towards the 100 million mile area around Qin Hao with the energy tide. The powerful energy was continuously absorbed by every particle that his body had transformed into. As more and more energy was absorbed, a strange light also burst forth from the particles, like dazzling stars. As the energy condensed, the range of the ceiling star and the 365 worlds also continuously expanded, and the particles formed by his body continuously diffused, expanded, condensed, and contracted. The particles, originally covering 1,000 miles, gradually expanded to tens of thousands of kilometers, hundreds of thousands of kilometers, millions of kilometers, until they reached tens of millions of kilometers before gradually slowing down. At the same time, Qin Hao's will was also undergoing transformation, and his soul also began to transform into threads, each thread becoming stronger and more resilient. Qin Hao, however, remained clear-headed, feeling the changes in his body, the changes in his soul, and also feeling the differences in the world. Carefully controlling the transformation of every particle of his body and the growth of every wisp of his soul, Qin Hao was completely immersed in observing the transformation of his body and soul. Another 10 years passed, and the energy from several light years around had been completely absorbed by Qin Hao. The entire time-space corridor, covering 1,000,000 light years, was also affected by the changes in this area, and the environment became even more harsh. The drastic changes attracted the attention of many elder god cult inheritors and members, but the harsh environment prevented their exploration, instead becoming a barrier for Qin Hao. The turbulence of time-space energy required even a universe overlord to handle with caution, as a slight mistake could lead to injury or even death. Moreover, the ancestral god secret realm itself was very complex, and changes occurring within the mystic realm were quite normal, so it did not cause too much speculation. After 10 years, the transformation of Qin Hao's soul and body had reached its final stage. His soul and will had reached the level of a universe lord, and his bodily particles began to contract, gradually condensing. The 365 worlds and the ceiling star within his body also became more aligned during this transformation, and the progress of their fusion accelerated significantly. Another 5 years passed, and the particles covering tens of millions of miles condensed into a massive body, a body nearly 1,000,000 miles long, spanning the time-space corridor. 15,000 times the gene level. Although the transformation is complete, it has not yet reached its peak. It still requires continuous energy replenishment to reach its peak. Feeling the changes in his body, Qin Hao also gained some understanding of this breakthrough. The crimson bright nine heavens diagram had completed its breakthrough, but it had not reached the anticipated 36,500 times the gene level, only 15,000 times. Or rather, it had already transformed to 36,500 times, but it needed time to grow. During this process, as long as there was enough energy, it could quickly reach 36,500 times the gene level without further obstacles. Chapter 277, Creation of Arcane Arts, Chapter 277. Secret technique creation. His massive body, hundreds of thousands of kilometers in size, had completely broken free from the restrictions of the primordial universe. The powerful strength within his body and a clearer perception of the laws made Qin Hao understand the power of this transformation. Breaking free from the restrictions of the primordial universe also meant embarking on the path of the divine body. Once he became undying and transformed into a divine body, Qin Hao could even directly become a universe strongest if he wished. Furthermore, even if he controlled his growth, just with the enhancement brought by his powerful divine body, the power Qin Hao could unleash at the undying stage would far exceed his original expectations. Upon becoming undying, Qin Hao's base strength would at least reach the king level, 100,000 times that of a peak world lord. Coupled with the gene level enhancement, it would exceed 1 billion times the power of a peak 9th level world lord. His base strength alone would directly rival a universe overlord. With the enhancements from secret technique, law comprehension, and divine body amplification, he could even contend with top-tier universe overlords. As for universe lords, only a direct confrontation would determine the outcome. However, for Qin Hao, it was only a matter of time. After becoming undying, Qin Hao would quickly enter the venerable realm, and his strength would directly rival a universe lord. Even universe lords below the 3rd tier would be suppressed. Collecting his thoughts, Qin Hao quickly awoke from the joy of his power increase. His mind immersed itself in his divine body, beginning to carefully observe the changes in his body. His body had already reached a maximum of 700,000 kilometers. Once he reached the 36,500 gene level, his body should break through 1,000,000 kilometers. At the same time, the worlds within his body also began to change, expanding continuously. The 3 largest worlds had now reached 2 trillion kilometers and were still growing, possibly even reaching 1 light-year in size. As for the other worlds, they had now reached hundreds of millions of kilometers and were still rapidly expanding, with their limit likely stopping at tens of billions of kilometers in size. The integration of the sealing star greatly increased the limits of these worlds, and during this breakthrough, it further elevated the upper limit of the worlds. The current size of these worlds was already beyond what even some extremely talented cultivators could achieve. When they transform into divine kingdoms in the future, they will undoubtedly be unique in the entire universe. Even if the human race doesn't have an advantage in physical size, with the enhancement of the gene level, Qin Hao's future divine body and divine kingdom size will directly surpass those special life forms in the primordial universe that are huge in size and possess extraordinary talent in gene level. Feeling the changes in his body, Qin Hao focused his mind and entered his sea of consciousness. His soul became even more solid, unconsciously exuding a powerful aura. Whether it was the quality of his soul, his will, or his soul power, all had reached the level of a universe lord. A world lord rank possessing a universe lord-level soul should be unique in the entire primordial universe, and even in the universe sea. Within his sea of consciousness, the 365 stars and the star gods within them, which he had visualized, also became more solid at this time, and the laws became clearer. Now only a few steps remain: the overall fusion of wind law, time law, and space law, the creation of secret technique, and then breaking the core to become undying. Qin Hao's accumulation was complete, and these 3 steps were no longer significant problems for him. The fusion of time law and space law had reached the 2nd stage, and the fusion of wind law and space law had reached the 5th stage. Wind law and time law, and all 3, had already achieved a preliminary fusion. Now, by systematically completing the 1st stage of fusion, the 1st step could be accomplished. Thinking this, Qin Hao directly entered the Jianglan realm and began to deduce the fusion of wind law, time law, and space law. Now, this process was already very smooth. All that was needed was to systematically complete it. The time law, space law, and wind law continuously manifested before Qin Hao's eyes. Threads of power were woven together, and during this weaving process, the power of the laws continuously merged, forming new patterns and generating entirely new content. The etherealness and speed of the wind law, the mystery and strangeness of space, and the vastness and grandeur of time. Each characteristic was displayed before him and merged together. At this moment, the three laws seemed to be inherently one, merging very smoothly. Qin Hao, in this state, directly entered a deep level of cultivation. His body was also involuntarily entwined by the wind law, time law, and space law. 5,000 years passed in the Jianglan realm. With Qin Hao's gradual comprehension, the fusion of the three laws finally entered the first stage. After entering the first stage, Qin Hao's cultivation did not stop. He remained immersed in cultivation, deducing the fusion of the three laws. It wasn't until the fusion of the three laws reached the peak of the first stage, after 10 years of sitting in meditation with no further progress in law fusion, that Qin Hao withdrew from his cultivation state. As expected, my accumulation is still insufficient. There's no clue for the second stage. Next, I need to create a secret technique. Qin Hao had some ideas for creating a secret technique. His battles against over 6,000 venerables in the glory world had given him a lot of insights and experience, providing him with a general direction for the secret technique. Additionally, the Black Inferno whirlwind he encountered upon entering the ancestral god's secret realm also gave him a reference. Of course, with the fusion of the three powers, wind law, time law, and space law, everything served only as a reference for Qin Hao. Ultimately, he needed to perfect it himself. Previously, when creating secret technique, he could rely on the various opponents chosen for him by Primordial Chaos City Lord in the virtual universe to refine its creation. However, the current mode of secret technique creation held no reference value. Qin Hao, having already exited the Jianglan realm, directly stepped out of the time-space corridor. The power of the time law and space law, which could originally pose a threat to him, could no longer hinder him at this moment. Qin Hao seemed to transform into a wisp of clear wind, his figure suddenly vanishing from his original spot and appearing directly outside the time-space corridor. After a final glance at the time-space corridor, Qin Hao swiftly flew towards the outskirts of the ancestral god secret realm. His objective this time was very clear: the Black Inferno whirlwind. The Black Inferno whirlwind fused the powers of wind law, time law, and law of fire, with a trace of space law within the fusion of these three powers. For Qin Hao, it was the best reference point currently available. As he advanced, Qin Hao continuously applied the wind law, time law, and space law to his movement. A cyan light continuously teleported through the universe, and the speed of teleportation became increasingly faster. Each teleportation became quicker in both speed and frequency, eventually even surpassing the speed of some spaceships. Chapter 278: Secret Method. Time and space disorder inside the ancestral god's secret realm. Qin Hao was moving quickly. However, the complex environment around him gradually slowed his progress. After all, as the most dangerous and mysterious mystic realm, the ancestral god's secret realm has never been fully explored since its existence and is constantly changing. Even the Elder God cult wouldn't claim to fully understand or control the ancestral god's secret realm. Fortunately, the Black Inferno whirlwinds Qin Hao was looking for were the most common in the ancestral god's secret realm. Almost every area had a large number of them. Upon finding a Black Inferno whirlwind, Qin Hao didn't hesitate. With the Sealing Star protecting him, he directly entered the Black Inferno whirlwind. While using the Zhu Tian star array, formed by the Sealing Star to convert the surrounding energy and continuously absorb it to strengthen himself, he also began to refine his secret technique. At its core, a secret technique is the application of laws, maximizing the power of the comprehended laws. Of course, there are significant distinctions among secret techniques. Previously, Qin Hao had created many secret techniques, including those for analyzing the essence of various laws, which primarily served to promote comprehension through their cultivation. Now, Qin Hao had a clear plan for creating secret techniques for the fusion laws of wind law, time law, and space law. First up were offensive secret techniques. To break through the core, offensive secret techniques were what he needed most right now. Next were secret techniques focused on speed. He already had some ideas for these, and combining them with the twin-winged supreme treasure he acquired wouldn't be too difficult to develop. As for defensive secret techniques, he hadn't given them much thought yet. With these thoughts, Qin Hao began to practice. His long sword constantly shifted, and fusion laws were continuously deployed, combined in various ways and unleashed. Practicing and observing, Qin Hao quickly entered the process of secret technique creation. During this process, Qin Hao didn't waste a single moment. He also utilized the Jianglan realm, placing time-consuming verification and accumulation processes within the Jianglan realm. After 20 years, plus over 10,000 years within the Jianglan realm, Qin Hao's secret technique had entered its final stage. The secret techniques of wind law, time law, and space law, after countless refinements and improvements, possessed such immense power that even Qin Hao, their creator, felt utterly astonished. Furthermore, during this refinement process, Qin Hao also experimented and created a series of secret techniques, including those for wind-time law, wind-space law, and space-time law. It was precisely the creation of these secret techniques that provided Qin Hao with a more solid foundation for creating the fusion law's secret technique of the three laws. Inside the Black Inferno whirlwind, the power of laws rapidly condensed in Qin Hao's hand. Wind law, time law, and space law converged in Qin Hao's hand, forming a long spear. Within the azure spear shaft, wind law, time law, and space law intertwined, appearing as a complete whole. Go. After the spear was fully condensed, Qin Hao threw it with all his might. The spear swiftly tore through space, appearing 1,000,000 kilometers away. Upon appearing, the spear rapidly exploded, and the surrounding hundreds of thousands of kilometers were directly enveloped by immense power. The chaotic fusion laws formed a turbulent zone throughout the entire area, where time, space, and the power of laws were completely disrupted. Everything within was instantly annihilated by the chaotic power, even directly piercing through space and devouring and shattering the spatial fragments within the space interlayer, turning them into powerful energy that destroyed everything. Not far from the explosion zone, a giant python formed by a black inferno whirlwind crashed into the chaotic area. The moment it entered the chaotic area, the giant python seemed to be twisted and stretched, rapidly being dragged into the area. Upon entering the area, in just an instant, the black inferno whirlwind was completely dissolved, turning into the most primitive energy, becoming fuel for this area. 1,000,000 kilometers in all directions, space-time completely disordered, order collapsed, everything will return to its origin. Even a universe overlord would surely be injured taking this move. Looking at the changes he had wrought, Qin Hao was quite satisfied. The full burst of power from the fusion laws of wind law, time law, and space law, forming an explosion in an instant, directly destroyed all law and order within the area, turning the surroundings into void, and continuously devouring everything around it, causing persistent damage. Even a black inferno whirlwind, capable of causing a venerable's demise, couldn't resist entering it. Such power was indeed astonishing. Furthermore, this area of distorted space-time would not vanish immediately. It would continue to expand by devouring everything around it for at least the next 100 years. Finally, it would be corrected by the energy of the primordial universe and return to its original state. Of course, this was just one effect of the secret technique's execution. By adjusting the secret technique for different targets, the power unleashed would be even greater. If the extremely condensed time law, space law, and wind law were directly unleashed upon an opponent, their speed, sharpness, power, and weird. Basically, no one could directly withstand it unless they immediately entered a defensive state at the moment of engagement. Let's call it time-space distortion. Looking at the chaotic scene before him, Qin Hao directly decided on the name for the secret technique. Qin Hao didn't actually care much about the names of secret methods. In fact, many of the secret techniques he created didn't even have names. However, this secret technique was, after all, the first fusion law's secret technique of wind law, space law, and time law, so it was worth commemorating. With the secret technique complete, Qin Hao was also preparing for his breakthrough to undying. The transition from World Lord to undying is a process of metamorphosis, a process of immense change. From a flesh and blood life form to the transformation into divine power, the body will become a divine body composed entirely of divine power until the breakthrough to true God, when it will revert to a flesh and blood life form. At the same time, Qin Hao already had some contingency plans for the problems he might encounter during the breakthrough. After all, unlike ordinary world lords who comprehend one law to perfection and then directly break through to undying, Qin Hao had already fully comprehended 8 lower laws. So, becoming undying would present a problem. How should he choose among the powers and divine powers of the 8 laws, or should he directly accommodate all 8 divine powers? However, these questions would have to wait until the time of the breakthrough to be decided. After all, Qin Hao's current situation had no comparable examples. In the primordial universe, most choose to comprehend one lower law to enter undying, and then proceed with the cultivation of higher laws. It was rare for someone to choose to comprehend 2 lower laws simultaneously from the beginning, as, in the common consensus of various cosmic races, the cultivation of lower law is the path to achieving undying, and one law is already sufficient. Chapter 279, Immortality. Chapter 279, Undying. Taiwan novel website accompanies you at your leisure, super considerate. Inside Purple Cloud Palace, Qin Hao sat in the most central position of the main hall. Over 3,000 champions stood guard in various parts of the Purple Cloud Palace, their divine power pouring into the Purple Cloud Palace to maintain its operation. Qin Hao had already fully comprehended the 8 lower-level laws. The moment Qin Hao decided to break through to undying, he connected with the origin of the universe. From the vast oceans of the metal law, wind, thunder, and light laws, endless energy flowed, continuously merging into the core within Qin Hao's body. The core began to rapidly absorb the energy from the 8 law oceans, undergoing a continuous transformation. The breakthrough to undying is an irreversible process, where the core absorbs the power of the origin, transforms into an origin bead, and then takes on the appearance of the individual. This is the basic process of entering undying. Unlike other undying, Qin Hao's origin bead rapidly absorbed the 8 origin laws, and his core quickly transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors, appearing mysterious and noble. Subsequently, the origin bead instantly changed, directly transforming into Qin Hao's likeness. Laws complete, origin formed, core shattered, divine power infused, soul and body merge into undying. At this moment, Qin Hao's basic process of achieving undying was complete. The next step was to shatter the core, draw in divine power, transform into a divine body and become undying. Within the core, a self-contained space existed. After the origin bead transformed into Qin Hao, he directly unleashed his strongest secret technique, space-time disruption. This move was created by Qin Hao specifically for this moment, and was the key for him to shatter the core and break through to undying. In the original work, when Luo Feng first attempted to break through to undying, he failed because he couldn't shatter his core, eventually achieving the breakthrough only after creating an ultimate secret technique. Currently, Qin Hao, in terms of accumulation, was even more profound than Luo Feng. His gene level had already surpassed the perfect gene, and he had fully comprehended 8 lower-level laws. His core's strength was far greater than Luo Feng's. If he relied solely on lower-level laws, or even fusion laws like gold space law, shattering it would require at least reaching the 7th level, and even the 7th level might not be enough. Now, the secret technique Qin Hao created, using wind law as a connection, combined with the fusion laws completed by time law and space law, was no weaker than some secret techniques of universe lords. It was just that Qin Hao's current strength was not yet sufficient to unleash all its power. After breaking through to undying, Qin Hao couldn't be sure how much power he could exert, but it would definitely not be inferior to a universe lord. His overall strength could already rival a top-tier universe overlord. Inside the core, Qin Hao didn't waste a single moment. The power of laws condensed in his hand, with wind law, space law, and time law being invoked. The surrounding energy rapidly condensed into a long spear. Qin Hao threw the spear with all his might towards the sky. The spear instantly vanished from his hand, striking the core. The energy did not dissipate as it would outside, but instead concentrated on the spear tip, creating a crack in the core, which then began to rapidly spread. As the crack spread, it also continuously healed, attempting to smooth out the damage received from the attack. It's even harder than I imagined. Looking at the core that hadn't completely shattered, Qin Hao moved quickly, and the surrounding energy rapidly condensed. Qin Hao's mind was fully engaged, and his comprehension of the laws was completely integrated into the attack. Spear after spear rapidly formed, floating around Qin Hao's body. Qin Hao moved swiftly, gripping a spear in each hand and directly throwing them at the core. At the same time, he quickly grabbed the surrounding spears and continuously threw them. Hundreds of spears were thrown in an instant, simultaneously striking various positions on the core. Cracks rapidly formed and spread, and the core's shackles were shattered in an instant. Rumble. Endless divine power poured into Qin Hao's body, and it wasn't just one type of divine power. Gold divine power, wood divine power, water divine power, fire divine power, earth divine power, wind divine power, light divine power, and thunder divine power. 8 types of divine power rapidly integrated into Qin Hao's body. After entering Qin Hao's body, the divine powers did not directly collide, but instead existed in a very peculiar state. The 8 divine powers seemed like 8 fine threads, intertwining to form a single strand. Although they weren't completely fused, they were entangled in this manner, coexisting without invading each other. The 8 divine powers thus merged into Qin Hao's body, and Qin Hao's body rapidly transformed into a divine body, quickly returning to its normal state of hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Under the blessing of divine power, the divine body also rapidly expanded, and the gene level began to grow quickly. 15,000 times, 16,000 times, 17,000 times, 20,000 times, until it broke through 30,000 times before stopping. At this point, Qin Hao's body had also exceeded 1,000,000 kilometers. Endless divine power continuously merged into Qin Hao's body. Qin Hao felt his strength rapidly increasing, and his soul imprint integrated into every portion of divine power. At the same time, the 365 worlds within his body also began to change, absorbing the surrounding divine power and undergoing transformation. Indeed powerful, is this the power of undying? Feeling the power within his body transform from world power into undying divine power, the quality and strength instantly increased by 100,000 times, reaching the power of an undying champion level, and it was still continuously increasing. With his current strength alone, Qin Hao's power had already surpassed 3 billion times the power of a peak 9th stage of Sector Lord Realm. Such power, even among universe overlords, was top tier, and he could even directly contend with a universe lord. After all, even universe lords, even some universe lords with perfect gene levels, could not compare their divine bodies to his. One must know that Qin Hao's divine power had already surpassed a venerable in quality, and in quantity, it surpassed them by hundreds of millions of times. Furthermore, Qin Hao's divine body was more solid than any undying or venerable. The powerful body and divine body forged by his gene level made Qin Hao fearless of any strong individual. Moreover, with a 30,000 times gene level, Qin Hao could instantly reach the universe strongest if he wished. However, Qin Hao would not do so. The path of the divine body had not yet reached its end, and Qin Hao was not prepared to break through so hastily. At the same time, Qin Hao also wanted to try if he could break the limitations of this world and surpass the so-called infinite divine body. The undying breakthrough allowed for the transformation of the divine body. Qin Hao's body quickly and completely transformed into a divine body, and at the same time, the worlds within his body showed a tendency to transform into a divine kingdom. Qin Hao did not plan to place his divine kingdom in a spatial fragment, but instead intended to fully evolve the divine kingdom directly within his body. With the support of the sealing star, it could completely withstand the transformation of the world into a divine kingdom. Furthermore, by relying on the 365 worlds within his body, he would construct new divine kingdoms, and the 365 star gods in his sea of consciousness would condense into divine bodies within their respective divine kingdoms. This way, he would essentially have 365 avatars, each with a certain degree of self-will, capable of self-cultivation, growth, and acting externally. Chapter 280, Lord of the Nine Netherworlds, Chapter 280. Lord of Nine Nether with a divine body over 1,000,000 kilometers, immense power, a slight flick of his hand shattered the space before him. Stepping out of Purple Cloud Palace, Qin Hao sensed the state of his divine body in the primordial universe. The surrounding black inferno whirlwind could no longer cause Qin Hao the slightest harm. The dangers that even venerables had to handle with caution were no longer a threat to Qin Hao. Divine power condensed in his hand, less than 1/10,000th of his total divine power, attacked directly forward. Without any secret technique or law enhancements, it was pure power, yet it created an extremely powerful sense of oppression for everything around him. The condensed black inferno whirlwind was instantly blasted apart at this moment. Everything around it was cleared, forming a blank area over 1,000,000 kilometers wide. It's tens of millions of times stronger than the World Lord stage. The gap between Undying and World Lord is too vast. Feeling the immense divine power, Qin Hao couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Although he had just broken through to Undying, Qin Hao's basic divine power already far surpassed that of a champion immortal, even directly comparable to a venerable. Under the enhancement of his gene level, its intensity was already comparable to a universe lord. Next are the space law and time law. I'm not far from truly becoming a universe lord. The improvement in his gene level and strength made the two higher laws, space law and time law, seem less difficult in Qin Hao's eyes. Furthermore, the fusion of the two laws' three paths was only a tiny bit away. He only needed to comprehend for a period of time to directly break through and become a venerable, and then a universe lord. Thinking this, Qin Hao directly mobilized the divine power within his body, condensing the power of time, the power of space, and the fused power of the two laws, in addition to the fusion laws of the 8 lower-level laws, and the fused power of wind law, time law, and space law. Divine power condensed and combined with the laws, and a ray of light rapidly spread outwards with Qin Hao as its core. The light seemed to form waves, and the surrounding laws were mobilized, constantly being reset. After tens of thousands of resets, Qin Hao finally stopped. The surrounding space-time and the traces of laws were completely chaotic, entirely erasing the fluctuations and scenes of his breakthrough. Although the location was very secret, if a universe lord discovered it and probed him through space-time, it would still have a certain impact on him. Whoosh, 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 sounds of flowing water and waves arose, and a massive aura instantly appeared 100,000 kilometers away. Feeling the sudden appearance of the aura, Qin Hao couldn't help but become vigilant. The appearance of such a strong individual in the ancestral god secret realm was definitely not simple. Moreover, Qin Hao already had some judgment about the newcomer. If it really was that person, his current strength would still be somewhat strained. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. However, fortunately, if it was him, there wouldn't be any problems. After all, he had a good relationship with his teacher, Primordial Chaos City Lord, so perhaps he could even leverage that connection. A magnificent, incredible aura instantly descended beside Qin Hao. Then, a bloody giant wave swept over, and a huge facial outline appeared before Qin Hao. Everything around him was already enveloped in crimson. The Lord of Nine Nether descended. As one of the guardian beast gods of the elder god cult, and one of the strongest among the guardian beast gods, the Lord of Nine Nether held an extremely high position in the elder god cult. With the strength of a universe lord and a massive divine body, even a universe strongest would be unwilling to face such an opponent. I didn't expect the one causing such a commotion to be a human hurricane king. The Lord of Nine Nether's voice was cold and calm, his gaze towards Qin Hao filled more with scrutiny. "Greetings, Lord of Nine Nether," Qin Hao said respectfully. "Human Hurricane King, I didn't expect you were just a world lord before. The human race has produced another such powerful existence. It seems the universe is about to become chaotic again," the Lord of Nine Nether continued. He was more curious about the human before him. Although the surrounding aura was already very faint, a universe lord was immensely powerful. With just a trace of aura, he could already sense the strength of the person before him. Although he had just become undying, he was already comparable to a universe overlord, or even stronger. Even stranger was the surrounding space-time aura. As a universe lord, controlling space-time was an ability granted by the primordial universe. Now, in this area, he felt that even if he tried to trace back space-time, he might not achieve the desired effect. Only a strong individual who was also a universe lord could achieve such a feat, and the person before him was clearly not a universe lord. Thinking this, the Lord of Nine Nether also abandoned his plan to recruit Qin Hao as an outer member of the Elder God cult. Such talent and strength should be decided by the three ancestral gods. After all, the Elder God cult's outer organization was, in essence, a relatively loose organization. It would absorb candidates for god envoys, candidates for god generals, and some talented inheritors, many of whom were universe overlord-level existences. However, reaching the universe lord level was not suitable for being under his command. "I will report your situation to the three ancestral gods. As for how you will be treated in the Elder God cult in the future, await the notification from the three ancestral gods," the Lord of Nine Nether said directly. After speaking, a bloody wave rolled, and he disappeared from Qin Hao's sight. Qin Hao didn't pay too much attention to the Lord of Nine Nether reporting his situation to the three ancestral gods. Having broken through to Undying, Qin Hao already possessed initial self-preservation capabilities. Moreover, he had gained many benefits from the ancestral god tomb, obtaining 2 supreme treasures previously, and now another one. From the Elder God cult alone, he had already acquired 3 supreme treasures. Furthermore, the Elder God cult itself was a very free power, which wouldn't affect his future plans. Having completed his breakthrough, Qin Hao did not linger in the same spot but headed directly towards the core of the ancestral god's secret realm. His objective had been achieved, and now he could return to Purple Thorn Island to leave his token, allowing him to teleport directly back to Purple Thorn Island in the future. Moreover, it was also time to receive a new round of inheritance. After this inheritance, he would most likely break through to the 6th stage. The subsequent 7th stage would not be as quick to break through, allowing him to be freer, continue accumulating comprehension, rather than remaining continuously in the Elder God cult. Some methods he wanted to employ still required returning to the human race territory to be safer and more secure. Furthermore, having broken through to Undying, he also needed to report to his teacher, Primordial Chaos City Lord. In the future, he wouldn't need to continue using the alias of Hurricane King. Qin Hao also prepared to return to Earth, as it had been quite a while since his last visit. Chapter 281, 6th Level Chapter 281. The 6th level above the main plaza of Purple Thorn Island, many inheritors were moving in and out, most of them returning from or entering the Treasure Land to seek opportunities. Among the 3 water curtains, Treasure Land, Inheritance Land, and Secret Realm, the Treasure Land saw the most frequent traffic. The Inheritance Land required sufficient honor points to enter. Although there were many inheritors on Purple Thorn Island, most only entered the Inheritance Land once during their first visit to Purple Thorn Island. Only a minority managed to accumulate enough honor points for a second entry. The others were spending time accumulating honor points. As for the secret realm, while it offered many opportunities, it also harbored more dangers. Even universe exalts could perish within it, and champions rarely explored it. Of course, there were also some inheritors who simply observed others in the plaza. Someone returned from the secret realm. As ripples rose from the fountain's water curtain, everyone involuntarily looked in its direction. Qin Hao stepped out from the water curtain and, upon entering the plaza, walked directly towards the inheritance land's water curtain. It's Hurricane King. I didn't expect him to return from the secret realm so quickly. Now he's heading directly to the inheritance land. It seems he gained quite a bit in the secret realm. What good fortune. He hasn't been with the Elder God cult for many years, yet he's already accumulated so many honor points. How long has it been since his last inheritance, and now he's entering again? He's truly extravagant. Don't be jealous. What can you do when he's strong enough? If you could win over 6,000 matches, you'd naturally be able to accept inheritances as you please. Enough said. Hurricane King is no simple person. He defeated so many universe exalts and survived the attacks of Venerable Zhu Guang and Venerable Xiaoshi. If he breaks through to universe exalt, he will definitely grow into a universe overlord-level powerhouse. Qin Hao ignored the gazes around him and directly entered the inheritance land. Inside the inheritance land, Venerable Jiu Feng looked at Qin Hao, who had appeared before him, with some surprise. He was delighted that Qin Hao had won over 6,000 matches. With over 60 opportunities for inheritance, and given the talent Qin Hao displayed, completing the 7-level inheritance was inevitable. The human race would gain another universe overlord-level existence. However, he didn't expect Qin Hao to come to accept the inheritance so quickly. Each beast god path inheritance required a long time to digest, ranging from 100 to over 1,000 years. After digesting the gains from an inheritance, it was best to accumulate for a long period before comprehending again to maximize the inheritance's effect. How many years had passed since Qin Hao's first visit? How much of the first inheritance had he digested and accumulated before coming to accept another one? You've come much earlier than I expected. Aren't you going to accumulate for a while longer before accepting the inheritance? Although you have over 60 opportunities, each one is extremely precious, Venerable Jiu Feng said earnestly. However, his gaze towards Qin Hao quickly changed. You've broken through to undying. Although it was a question, his tone was filled with pleasant surprise. To possess such powerful strength and comprehension at the World Lord rank. Now that he had broken through to undying, Venerable Jiu Feng was unsure just how strong he had become. Indeed, I was fortunate enough to break through in the secret realm, Qin Hao replied modestly, not hiding anything. Good, good, good. Another powerhouse of our human race has risen. Venerable Jiu Feng's laughter echoed through the space of the inheritance land. As one of the few universe overlords in the human race and a high-ranking member of the race, he had witnessed the human race's struggles time and again. Naturally, he was overjoyed at the race's strengthening. When do you plan to break through to universe exalt? Qin Hao's comprehension was already sufficient. The 4th level of the beast god path inheritance was enough to reach the universe exalt stage and break through. In the original work, Zhanyan King, upon his first visit to Purple Thorn Island, received the inheritance, reached the 4th level, and subsequently broke through to become a universe exalt. I will remain at the undying level for some time, Qin Hao stated his plan. He still intended to break through based on space law or time law. With his current strength, he already possessed sufficient self-preservation capabilities in the universe. Furthermore, Qin Hao did not plan to travel to other regions of the universe in the short term. After this comprehension, he would stay in Primordial Chaos City for a period to address issues within the virtual universe. After all, now that he had broken through to undying, he needed to understand what arrangements Primordial Chaos City Lord had. After leaving Primordial Chaos City, Qin Hao planned to return directly to Earth to stay for a period, continuing to accumulate. He would then break through to Universe Exalt, and then aim directly for Universe Lord. All right, go in and accept the inheritance, Venerable Jiu Feng said no more. Since Qin Hao had already reached the undying level, he no longer needed much advice from him, and he must have thought things through carefully. After a slight bow, Qin Hao stepped directly into the black mist of the inheritance land. After Qin Hao entered the black mist, the surrounding mist began to gather rapidly. A force integrated into his body, and Qin Hao's comprehension of fusion laws was fully displayed, the 5th level. Subsequently, Qin Hao continued to enter the environment, where fusion laws were clearly displayed before him. Qin Hao's comprehension of fusion laws rapidly improved, and the bottleneck of the 6th level was quickly broken. He then began to comprehend the 6th level of fusion laws. Time passed very quickly, and the environment rapidly disappeared, but Qin Hao had already fully comprehended the 6th level of the Beast God path. Moving forward, he only needed time to slowly comprehend it. Expelled from the inheritance land, Qin Hao remained immersed in his comprehension, but quickly woke up. Good, much stronger than I imagined. It seems your strength is no less than mine. Venerable Jiu Feng's tone was filled with surprise. Originally, when Qin Hao became undying, he thought Qin Hao's strength among universe exalts should reach the level of a high-tier universe exalt. However, the laws entwined around Qin Hao's body, and the aura he inadvertently emitted the moment he was expelled from the inheritance land, caused Venerable Jiu Feng a hint of surprise. The powerful oppressive feeling brought by his divine power was absolutely not something ordinary universe exalts could compare to. It was even significantly stronger than some universe exalts, with perfect gene level he knew. To possess universe overlord level strength at the immortal level, such a genius, such a powerhouse, if he became a universe exalt, he would undoubtedly possess universe lord level strength, and becoming a universe exalt for Qin Hao was merely a matter of thought. In other words, as long as Qin Hao wished, he could directly become one of the peak powerhouses of the human race. Chapter 282, Thunder Island Peak in the Virtual Universe. On Thunder Island, Qin Hao stepped onto Thunder Island, directly appearing on the mountaintop in front of the highest and largest palace. Come in. This was not Qin Hao's first time on Thunder Island, but previously he had only come as Primordial Chaos City Lord's disciple to seek guidance from his teacher. Now, it was Qin Hao's first time formally entering Thunder Island as an undying powerhouse. However, to establish a palace on Thunder Island, it still required his teacher, Primordial Chaos City Lord, to decide. Stepping into the palace, Qin Hao quickly met Primordial Chaos City Lord. Greetings, teacher. Qin Hao respectfully bowed. Although Primordial Chaos City Lord's teaching method for him was more of a hands-off approach, he had always been very supportive. From the very beginning, he opened all secret techniques of the virtual universe to him, and on matters concerning him, he mostly deferred to Qin Hao's opinions. Not bad. I didn't expect you to break through to undying so quickly. Primordial Chaos City Lord was quite satisfied with Qin Hao. He only had a relatively vague judgment of Qin Hao's strength. In terms of laws, he was no longer inferior to a universe exalt, and had even reached the level of a universe overlord. His gene level had reached the perfect gene level. Just by breaking through to undying, his strength already surpassed that of an ordinary exalt. Coupled with his comprehension of laws, his minimum strength was that of a universe overlord. Now, how strong are you? Primordial Chaos City Lord directly asked. Among universe overlords, I should have no opponents. I can contend with a universe lord. Qin Hao did not hide his current situation. For his teacher and the human race, the stronger he was, the more attention he would receive. Furthermore, the news of him obtaining a supreme treasure was already public among the human race's high-level members, and many were eyeing the supreme treasure in his hands. Now, sufficient strength could help him solve many problems. Good, now that you have become undying, you can establish your own palace on Thunder Island. Later, you can directly choose a location on the mountaintop and build it. Primordial Chaos City Lord was very satisfied upon hearing Qin Hao's answer. He was even stronger than he had imagined. He did not doubt Qin Hao exaggerating his strength. After all, he was clear about Qin Hao's talent, and his growth had always been very rapid. When he was a world lord, his strength was already comparable to a universe exalt, and even his second disciple, Venerable Guiyi, had once stated that Qin Hao's strength might already be no less than his. At that time, Qin Hao was still just a world lord. Now, becoming undying brought a huge improvement, and coupled with the inheritance Qin Hao obtained in the Elder God cult, his understanding of laws must have advanced to another level. What are your plans for the future? Primordial Chaos City Lord continued to ask. Having become undying, Qin Hao's autonomy was also stronger. I plan to stay in Primordial Chaos City for a period of time to refine some inheritance items and leave behind some secret techniques, then return to Earth to stay for a period, preparing to break through to Venerable. Qin Hao also did not hide his upcoming plans. Having become undying, the sense of urgency in his heart was no longer so strong. Now, even if Earth were exposed, Qin Hao had no worries. With his current strength and status, he was already sufficient to protect Earth within the human race. Inheritance items. Hearing Qin Hao mention inheritance items, Primordial Chaos City Lord couldn't help but be very curious about what Qin Hao intended to leave behind. After all, for any race, inheritance was the most crucial, directly affecting the future of a race. Now that Qin Hao had spoken so simply, Primordial Chaos City Lord didn't know how to judge the inheritance items. However, his heart was filled more with curiosity and anticipation. Previously, Qin Hao had already created many secret techniques and uploaded them to the virtual universe. Primordial Chaos City Lord had reviewed every single secret technique, from basic law essence type secret techniques to various applications of laws, and even secret techniques developed from fusion laws. Many secret techniques made even Primordial Chaos City Lord's eyes light up. It was precisely because of this that Primordial Chaos City Lord was very confident in Qin Hao and did not make any special arrangements for him. He only provided some knowledge and convenience for Qin Hao when he needed them. It's related to the inheritance I received this time in the Elder God cult, some inheritance regarding fusion laws. This was something Qin Hao had already planned when he was refining Purple Cloud Palace. Walking out of Primordial Chaos City Lord's palace, Qin Hao directly found a spot on the mountaintop. With power condensed, he waved his hand, and a palace began to materialize. The overall style still maintained Qin Hao's preferred China style, constructed directly with reference to China's palace complexes. As Qin Hao built the palace, the powerhouses throughout Thunder Island were all drawn by the commotion. Their gazes turned towards the palace rising on the mountaintop and towards Qin Hao, who was building it. Isn't that Qin Hao? Why is he building a palace on the mountaintop? Isn't he a world lord? What's wrong with being a world lord? His strength has already reached Invincible King, and he's also Primordial Chaos City Lord's disciple. What does that have to do with his identity? To build a palace on the mountaintop, one needs at least Universe Overlord level strength. That's the rule. How can it be broken because of identity? Haven't you noticed? Qin Hao's aura is no longer that of a world lord. He has already broken through to undying. He's become undying. Could it be that his strength already rivals a universe overlord as soon as he became undying? How could such a monstrous talent exist? The news of Qin Hao breaking through to undying quickly attracted attention among many powerhouses, with more people speculating about how strong Qin Hao truly was. However, most people still found it hard to believe that Qin Hao's strength had already reached universe overlord level. Yet, no one raised any doubts. After all, Qin Hao building a palace on the mountaintop must have been arranged by Primordial Chaos City Lord. This meant that Primordial Chaos City Lord had already recognized Qin Hao's strength and status. Qin Hao didn't pay attention to the gazes of the people below. After the palace was built, he directly stepped inside, surveyed the interior layout, and was quite satisfied. As he sat on the throne, just about to contact his disciples Rokas, Hong, Thunder God, and his sister, among others, to grant them permission to enter his palace, someone outside the palace arrived at the door. Sensing the approaching person, Qin Hao stopped his actions, controlled the gate to open directly, and a person stepped in from outside the palace. I didn't expect you, junior brother, to break through to Undying so quickly, and even be arranged by teacher to be on Thunder Island's mountaintop. The person who entered was none other than Venerable Guiyi. He had already noticed when Qin Hao was building the palace. He was also very surprised that Qin Hao was directly building a palace on the mountaintop. In his estimation, Qin Hao's breakthrough to Undying should have brought his strength to the level of a high-level venerable. But he hadn't expected it to directly reach Universe Overlord. He would not suspect his teacher of favoritism, and he was even clearer about Qin Hao's strength and talent. Although there was a hint of bitterness in his tone, he was still happy at heart. I gained some insights this time in the Elder God cult, and by chance, I broke through, and my strength inadvertently reached this level. Qin Hao's communication with Venerable Guiyi was very casual. From primordial Chaos City Lord's guidance to Venerable Guiyi, to later Qin Hao directly consulting Venerable Guiyi on many cultivation questions. Qin Hao had no estrangement with this senior brother, with whom he had the most contact. Chapter 283 Chaos City Chapter 283 Primordial Chaos City. After Venerable Guiyi left, Qin Hao immediately granted his sister Qin Ying, disciple Roka's, Thunder God, Hong, and Luo Feng access to his palace. Brother, what is this place? The palace is built so beautifully. After gaining access, Qin Ying immediately arrived at Qin Hao's palace and began to survey the interior. She was very curious about the palace's condition, the towering structure, and all the various furnishings within, examining every single one. Qin Ying had also entered her teacher Gan Wu Country Lord's palace, but it was still a bit inferior to the palace before her eyes. Subsequently, Roka's, Hong, and Thunder God also arrived at Qin Hao's palace, surveying its condition and curiously looking at Qin Hao, awaiting his answer. This is my palace on Thunder Island. You can come find me here in the virtual universe, Qin Hao said casually. However, the four of them quickly reacted. Thunder Island. Isn't that where the Undying reside in the virtual universe? How did Qin Hao build a palace here? Could he have become an Undying? Brother, have you become an Undying? Qin Ying asked directly, her tone filled with shock. That's right, I have already become an Undying. I am now on my way to Primordial Chaos City, and then I will return directly to Earth to live, Qin Hao revealed his plan. At the Virtual Universe Company headquarters, Qin Hao's figure appeared. This time, he had come directly via Divine Kingdom teleportation through an Undying he had enslaved. After leaving the Virtual Universe Company headquarters, Qin Hao directly took a spaceship to the entrance of the Primal Universe. It's me, Qin Hao. Open the passage, Qin Hao's voice rang out, and the Primal Universe passage opened. The spaceship entered the passage, heading towards the Primal Universe. Looking at the laws on the passage, Qin Hao couldn't help but feel a bit emotional, recalling his first experience entering the Primal Universe. At that time, he was only universe rank, but now he had become an Undying, and his power had reached the peak of the universe. Entering the Primal Universe, and then Primordial Chaos City, Qin Hao went directly into his small courtyard. Although he had come to Primordial Chaos City to refine the inheritance artifact, he still needed to make some preparations. And before that, Qin Hao intended to complete his breakthrough to Undying check-in. Entering his Sea of Consciousness, the simple panel showed some changes. The colors on the panel had become three-colored, but overall, it remained very basic with only one button. I didn't expect there would be an advancement. I wonder what will be different. Qin Hao was somewhat curious about the change and directly pressed the button. A flash of light shone, and then a wisp of blood Kai shot out from the panel, directly merging into Qin Hao's body. Check-in successful, check-in cultivation. Undying, check-in reward. A wisp of Pangu blood Kai. As this blood Kai merged into his body, it condensed into a blood pearl within Qin Hao's body, continuously absorbing Qin Hao's divine power. Qin Hao's soul in his Sea of Consciousness also merged into it, as if entering a state of gestation. With his soul entering the blood pearl, Qin Hao felt enveloped by a warm power, and his soul began to grow little by little. His soul power extended, wanting to carefully examine the detailed condition of this blood pearl, but he found nothing. Pangu Blood Kai, I wonder what kind of changes it will eventually bring, but it seems it's still unexplorable. Qin Hao, having found nothing, finally withdrew from the exploration. Pangu Blood Kai itself was an incredibly mysterious existence, and the changes it brought now were very limited. Its specific effects were simply unknowable. After completing the check-in, Qin Hao directly teleported to the City Lord's mansion. The inheritance treasure he was refining this time was for the race, and some materials were only available within the race. Before coming to Primordial Chaos City, Qin Hao had already discussed it with Primordial Chaos City Lord and given him the list of required materials. Among these materials, the most important was the manufacturing material for the Chaos Steel, which could itself serve as a carrier of laws and allow viewers to quickly enter a state of cultivation and enlightenment. This was also one of the most crucial materials for the inheritance treasure Qin Hao was refining this time. Entering the City Lord's mansion, Qin Hao went directly into the inner mansion. After obtaining all the materials from Primordial Chaos City Lord, he immediately left Primordial Chaos City. This refinement would not take place within the Jianglan realm. It would use the Chaos Kai flow of the primal universe as one of the refining materials. Exiting the inner mansion, Qin Hao directly teleported away from Primordial Chaos City and began flying into the depths of the universe, searching for a suitable refining location. The primal universe itself was the early stage of a nascent mini-universe, and Qin Hao speculated that the current primal universe was the mini-universe of origin ancestor from back then. Flying rapidly through the primal universe, Qin Hao quickly found a suitable refining location. The refining tools from the Jianglan realm were taken out one by Qin Hao, and he began to set them up. The surrounding 10,000 kilometers were instantly enveloped by a formation, and lines of secret patterns continuously formed, connecting all the tools together, directly forming a complete refining chamber. With the refining chamber formed, Qin Hao no longer hesitated. His divine power directly merged into the formation from his feet. All the formations and secret patterns of the refining chamber began to operate. After becoming an undying, Qin Hao's powerful divine power and vast physical body meant he no longer needed the assistance of his undying subordinates for refining. His powerful divine power, after passing through the formation, was further enhanced, and scorching flames rose. Qin Hao threw the materials one by one into the crucible. All the materials were completely condensed in an instant. The surrounding Chaos Kai flow was continuously drawn into the crucible by Qin Hao, merging into the materials. As the Chaos Kai flow continuously merged, the materials gradually condensed with a gray airflow, and the external laws gradually intertwined around the materials. Separate. With a clear cry, at the same time, his divine power seemed to transform into a sharp blade, directly dividing the completely melted materials before him into 9 portions. While completing the division, Qin Hao also began to shape them. The 9 portions of material quickly transformed into 9 massive steels. After the steels were formed, Qin Hao began to engrave them continuously. Runes constantly merged into the steels, and the steels rapidly transformed into massive whirlpools, beginning to absorb large amounts of the surrounding Chaos Kai. At the same time, Qin Hao began to engrave further on the steels. Unlike the highly abstract drawings on the Chaos Steel, Qin Hao was engraving individual runes and secret patterns on these steels. These runes were ones Qin Hao had begun to analyze from the first time he came to Primordial Chaos City to comprehend the essence of laws. By now, after a long period of comprehension and multiple improvements, coupled with the insights gained on Purple Thorn Island, they had formed a complete system. Chapter 284, A New School. Chapter 284. A new school of thought. Qin Hao inscribed his insights, bit by bit, onto the 9 stone tablets, and the secret patterns and inscriptions continuously grew more complex. Across all 9 fusion laws, Qin Hao had already reached the 6th stage, with some time still needed to achieve complete fusion. For Taiwan novels, look for Taiwan novel website, TW.com. It's super powerful. Judging solely by the level of fusion laws and their corresponding stages on the Heavenly Bridge, he was roughly at the 23rd level. Fully comprehending the 6th stage would bring him to the 24th level. However, unlike the Beast God path, the legacy Qin Hao summarized was a pure path of fusion laws. The Beast God path, in addition to fusion laws, more importantly involved the Beast God will, eventually leading to the comprehension of the Beast God heart and reaching the level of a universe lord. Purely comprehending laws would lead to a universe overlord as the pinnacle. Nevertheless, even a universe overlord was already an unattainable aspiration for most cultivators. Furthermore, since he was forming a complete legacy, what Qin Hao passed down, besides the fusion laws, also included specialized secret techniques developed for each fusion law. These secret techniques would replace the Beast God will and the Beast God heart, and in Qin Hao's estimation, they could even allow one to reach the level of a universe lord. However, whether this could actually be achieved would depend on the cultivators themselves. Even as the creator, Qin Hao had not yet fully completed the secret techniques. Over 100 years, Qin Hao continuously inscribed his insights onto the stone tablets, clearly demonstrating his comprehension of fusion laws. Qin Hao's method of presentation was somewhat similar to the secret pattern school of thought in the universe. Through comprehending and imitating the secret patterns and inscriptions, one could wield more powerful fusion laws. At the same time, stronger attacks could also help cultivators comprehend fusion laws faster, creating a mutually reinforcing state between the two. With the final stroke, the inscriptions on all the stone tablets were complete. The fusion laws from the first 6 stages of the Beast God path were displayed on the stone tablets, each secret pattern and inscription appearing incredibly mysterious. Simultaneously, the stone tablets continuously absorbed the surrounding chaos Chi flow, drawing forth corresponding externalized laws, gradually forming strange echoes that enveloped each tablet. The first stage is complete. Next are the corresponding secret techniques and the will secret techniques. The rise of every school of thought is an extremely long process, an accumulation of insights from countless cultivators that eventually forms a coherent system. As for the creation of secret techniques, Qin Hao did not plan to create too many. Basic comprehension secret techniques, attack secret techniques corresponding to each level, and most importantly, the will condensation secret technique. The most crucial among them was the will condensation secret technique, which was also the most important core of cultivation. Of course, it was also the true path for those strong individuals with talent in fusion laws. The will secret technique was directly aligned with the Beast God will and the final Beast God heart, a secret technique that, through the comprehension of fusion laws, promoted the growth of a cultivator's will and condensed a secret technique unique to their will. To a certain extent, the secret technique also drew inspiration from Qin Hao's insights on the Nuwa visualization diagram, focusing on soul cultivation and the cultivation of a cultivator's will, while also referencing the concept of Dharma body from China's mythology. The creation of secret techniques mostly required time and did not necessitate the special conditions of the primal universe. Qin Hao directly entered the Jianglan realm to begin creating the secret techniques. He started with the wind-time fusion law and the wind-space fusion law, as Qin Hao had already created many secret techniques for these two laws. His main task was to sort out and improve these two fusion law secret techniques, adapting them to be suitable for more cultivators. After 1,000 years, Qin Hao completed the creation of secret techniques for these two fusion laws. The law comprehension secret technique aimed to accelerate law comprehension and research, while the application secret techniques corresponding to each level served more as inspiration and guidance for cultivators. As for the will secret technique, Qin Hao did not start creating it directly. The difficulty and innovativeness of the will secret technique meant it was a vast project that could not be perfected in a short time. After the wind space and wind time fusion laws, Qin Hao directly created the corresponding secret techniques for the thunder time and light time fusion laws, which took 1500 years. The creation of secret techniques for the metal space, wood space, water space, fire space, and earth space fusion laws took a similar amount of time, approximately 4,000 years. Once the secret techniques were completed, Qin Hao immediately began creating the will secret technique. The will secret technique differed greatly from ordinary secret techniques. Secret techniques related to the soul were never simple, let alone those involving will. Starting from the soul and divine power, coupled with some guidance on temperament and coordination with fusion laws, every detail determined the final effect of the secret technique. Furthermore, the secret technique Qin Hao wanted to create was more of a relatively universal secret technique, drawing on some characteristics of the beast god, and integrating insights from visualization method, soul, and star god condensation into the secret technique. 1,000 years later, Qin Hao finally made some progress in creating the will secret technique. The soul in his sea of consciousness was constantly evolving, streams of soul power condensed within it, and at the same time, divine power was continuously separated, beginning to transform. In the space before him, images of various deities continuously formed before Qin Hao's eyes. Once formed, they began to demonstrate various fusion law secret techniques. The power is still limited, and the enhancement it brings is not significant. It seems further improvements are needed. Feeling the power displayed by each divine image before him, Qin Hao was still somewhat dissatisfied and began continuously adjusting the will secret technique. The beast god is the representative of fusion laws in the primordial universe, and also a deity born from fusion laws. To a certain extent, the beast god itself is fusion law, and the beast god will is the most instinctive application of fusion laws. Qin Hao's mind was constantly pondering, and the will secret technique also underwent continuous changes. However, fusion laws are not limited to just one application. A universe lord should not be the end, nor should it be the culmination of fusion laws. It should not be restricted to the beast god itself. What are fusion laws? What are laws? They are part of the universe's evolution, part of the world, or a manifestation of the Tao. Qin Hao's thoughts diverged, various ingenious ideas clashed in his mind, and the divine bodies before him began to change continuously. One by one, they gradually returned from various states to their most primitive form, transforming into Qin Hao's appearance, yet their displayed power grew increasingly stronger. For 50,000 years, Qin Hao cultivated every moment, and the power displayed by each divine power clone grew even stronger. The current power had already increased by more than 10 times compared to the initial stage, which was a further enhancement on top of the 100-fold divine body amplification. With such an amplification, a top-tier universe overlord should be able to rival a universe lord. However, the actual effect still needs to be verified. With the completion of the will secret technique, Qin Hao breathed a sigh of relief. His new school of thought had now laid its foundation, and it only needed cultivators to continuously perfect it. Chapter 285 Chaos City is shaken. Qin Hao directly put the surrounding refining equipment into the Jianglan realm, then released his divine power, directly carrying the 9 stone tablets and teleporting into primordial Chaos City. Appearing above primordial Chaos City, Qin Hao quickly attracted the attention of many powerful individuals. That's Qin Hao. Has he already become an undying? What a powerful aura. His strength should be no less than venerable level, right? Your news is too outdated. Qin Hao became an undying more than 100 years ago, and he established his own palace on Thunder Island, which was even arranged by the city lord on the peak of Thunder Island. Is he really that strong? Doesn't the peak only allow universe overlord-level powerhouses to reside there? Could it be that Qin Hao, having just become an undying, already possesses universe overlord-level strength? You don't know, but Hurricane King, who continuously slaughtered alien champion undying in the outside territory battlefield, is His Highness Qin Hao. Really? I heard that Hurricane King also obtained a heavy treasure in the Elder God cult treasure land. It seems that his universe overlord-level combat power is not false. Look at those stone tablets behind him. At this moment, many powerful individuals began to turn their gaze towards the 9 stone tablets behind Qin Hao. This is the beast god path. Such clear laws. That's gold space law. How can it be so clear? So gold space law can be like this. Are these all created by him? Gold space fusion law, wood space fusion law, that's wind time fusion law, and water space law, fire space law, earth space law. There's also light time law, thunder time law, and the last one is wind law and space law. Can these 2 laws also fuse? How is this possible? 9 fusion laws, all so clear. What kind of monstrous talent is he? The appearance of the 9 stone tablets plunged all the powerful individuals in primordial Chaos City into shock, staring blankly at the stone tablets in the sky, carefully comprehending the changes without daring to slack off in the slightest. Most of those who cultivate in primordial Chaos City have a deep understanding in various schools and have encountered bottlenecks on their path, finding it difficult to break through. For example, powerful individuals like Zhan Yan King, a single enlightenment, a single opportunity, might allow them to directly break through to the venerable level. Although only a minority walk the beast god path after encountering bottlenecks, there are still many cultivators who comprehend fusion laws. Furthermore, the 9 stone tablets refined by Qin Hao are themselves based on laws, showcasing fusion laws. For these powerful individuals who have completely comprehended lower law and have a deep understanding of space law or time law, the basic secret technique and carvings of fusion laws are not too difficult, and one by one, they couldn't help but fall into comprehension. However, Qin Hao did not stay long above primordial Chaos City. After teleporting into primordial Chaos City, he directly arrived outside the City Lord's mansion, stepped into the City Lord's mansion, and directly entered the inner residence of the City Lord's mansion, arriving at the Chaos Ruins where primordial Chaos City Lord resided. The commotion you caused this time is not small. Primordial Chaos City, which has been bottlenecked for countless years, seems to be getting lively this time. Primordial Chaos City Lord said excitedly, looking at the 9 stone tablets in front of Qin Hao. The fusion laws on the stone tablets also made him feel extremely shocked. 9 fusion laws, all of which have reached the universe overlord level. Such a feat could only be achieved by the Elder God cult, which has the longest inheritance. However, he also discovered that these fusion laws were different from the beast god path. They were a purer path of law fusion. They discarded the influence of the beast god's will, purely describing the cultivation of fusion laws. Although they lacked the blessing of the beast god's will, their power would be slightly weaker, but the difficulty was much lower. These are merely the secret technique and engravings of pure fusion laws, equivalent to the 6th stage of the beast god path. The 7th stage needs to be supplemented after I comprehend it. Besides the stone tablets, the disciple has also created corresponding comprehension secret technique and application secret technique, as well as a one-step will secret technique. If successfully cultivated, the power unleashed will be close to the beast god path. As Qin Hao spoke, a series of secret technique appeared neatly in front of him, floating towards primordial Chaos City Lord. Qin Hao ultimately decided to keep these secret technique in physical form for now. On one hand, the secret technique themselves carried a certain aura of laws, and directly reading the original would provide a certain bonus, especially for the will secret technique. For the first cultivation, presenting them in their original form could serve as a guide. When Qin Hao created the secret technique, he also refined the books that carried them, allowing them to absorb energy, chaos chi flow, and the power of externalized laws to condense duplicates. The duplicates could guide cultivators in their initial comprehension process. However, it was only guidance, planting a seed. As for whether the seed could grow and how fast it would grow, that depended on the cultivator themselves. Looking at the stone tablets and the secret manuals in his hand, Even Primordial Chaos City Lord's combat clone couldn't help but smile at this moment. However, this smile appeared quite terrifying. "How do you want to arrange the inheritance?" Primordial Chaos City Lord asked. "Let them remain in Primordial Chaos City, placed alongside the Chaos Steel. Members of my Virtual Universe Corporation can receive one free comprehension opportunity, and subsequent opportunities will be decided by teacher." Qin Hao did not want to participate too much in the later matters. As for the members of the Virtual Universe Corporation, they are more of a type of powerful individual within the Virtual Universe Corporation, and the upper echelons will certainly be prioritized for comprehension. As for the later stages, it will be more like the Chaos Steel, available for cultivators and geniuses who come to Primordial Chaos City each time. Furthermore, a heavenly bridge belonging to the 9 stone tablets will be established based on this, which is a relatively long process that needs to be perfected step by step. However, there are quite a few talents in the Virtual Universe Corporation, and these problems can be completed by others. Good. For your contribution this time, I have decided to grant you a peak heavy treasure on behalf of the ethnic group. You can choose it from the ethnic group's heavy treasure vault. Thank you, teacher. However, I do not lack heavy treasures. It would be better to exchange them for some materials. It just so happens that during my time resting back on Earth, I can refine some heavy treasures or important heavy treasures. Qin Hao said that he did not lack heavy treasures, and moreover, it would be difficult for a single heavy treasure to be perfectly suited to him. It would be better to ask for some materials for refining heavy treasures, so he could refine corresponding heavy treasures himself, and in larger quantities. He still had 3 clones, and currently, only his second clone had 2 heavy treasures obtained from the ancestral god tomb. You may go to the vault and choose for yourself. Primordial Chaos City Lord did not refuse. After all, compared to materials, the human race had fewer heavy treasures over countless years. There were countless materials in the human race's vault, many even from the Universe Sea. However, only a relatively low-level portion was actually utilized, and the truly precious ones were all kept under wraps, with no one able to utilize them. Now, since his disciple could use them, Primordial Chaos City Lord was not stingy. Chapter 286. Ganwu Universe. In the Ganwu Universe country, 2 figures appeared. It was Qin Hao and his enslaved subordinate. After confirming their location, Qin Hao directly took out his spaceship and headed towards Ganwu Star in the Ganwu Universe country. After handing over the 9 stone tablets and the secret technique to the Primordial Chaos City Lord, Qin Hao did not linger in Primordial Chaos City and directly left the Primal Universe. At the Virtual Universe Corporation, he instructed his servant to use the God Country teleportation to return to the Ganwu Universe country. Upon arriving in the Ganwu Universe country, Qin Hao did not immediately return to Earth, but instead came to Ganwu Star. After all, he would be staying in the Ganwu Universe country for a period of time, and it was highly possible he would break through to Universe Exalt here, so he needed to meet with Ganwu Venerable and catch up. Today was different from the past. Qin Hao's strength had undergone earth-shattering changes. From a universe rank at the time he left the Ganwu Universe country to now becoming an undying powerhouse, his strength had reached the Universe Overlord level. Both his talent and strength were not to be underestimated. He was originally just a genius, but now he could truly be called a powerhouse. The spaceship traveled rapidly, arriving outside Ganwu Star in less than a day. Emerging from the dark universe, the spaceship continued its journey, approaching Ganwu Star. At the same time, all the powerhouses on Ganwu Star looked up at the sky. Ganwu Venerable, who was in the core palace of Ganwu Star, instantly teleported, bringing his 300 champions with him, directly appearing outside the planet and stopping. What kind of person is the country lord waiting for to go to such great lengths? Don't think wildly. For the country lord to attach such importance, it must be a powerhouse of our race. Otherwise, with the country lord's immense strength, even if it were another Universe Exalt, he wouldn't be so serious. A spaceship is coming. Ganwu Venerable looked into the distance, ignoring the mental exchanges among the people behind him. This time, making such a grand display was a decision made after careful consideration. The news of Qin Hao breaking through to Undying and establishing a palace on Thunder Island's peak had spread like wildfire within the entire Virtual Universe Corporation, and Ganwu Venerable had naturally received the news. Unlike others' doubts, Ganwu Venerable had always paid close attention to Qin Hao. He knew that Qin Hao already possessed Invincible King and even Venerable level strength while still at the World Lord rank. Now, breaking through to Undying and directly reaching the Universe Overlord level was not entirely impossible. What's more, as the longest existing Universe Country Lord and a human powerhouse, he was very clear about the primordial Chaos City Lord's character. He would not give his disciples special treatment. Therefore, the only possibility was that Qin Hao's strength had gained the primordial Chaos City Lord's approval, which was why he was permitted to establish a divine palace on the peak. Soon the spaceship approached, and Qin Hao flew out of it, directly retracting the spaceship, and slowly walked before the Ganwu Country Lord. Country Lord, this is too grand. Qin Hao couldn't help but say, looking at the 300 champions behind the Ganwu Country Lord and the many people observing from Ganwu Star. When a genius powerhouse of my Ganwu Universe country returns, it naturally calls for a grand welcome, the Ganwu Country Lord replied. As the two conversed, it was as if they were old friends, and their interaction was very harmonious. Isn't that Qin Hao? Why is the Country Lord so serious about his return? The people behind the Ganwu Country Lord had already recognized Qin Hao's identity, and their hearts were filled with more confusion. Qin Hao was a genius from the Ganwu Universe Country's Genius Battle who entered the virtual universe. How many years had passed? No matter how strong he was, at most he should only be at the World Lord peak, right? Even if he was the primordial Chaos City Lord's disciple, he shouldn't be treated with such solemnity by the Ganwu Country Lord. Although each of them was confused, they dared not show the slightest disrespect. As the backbone of the Ganwu Universe Country, their information was quite limited. Most of the news from within the Virtual Universe Corporation was unknown to them. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Qin Hao and the Ganwu Country Lord conversed as they descended from the sky, arriving at the Ganwu Country Lord's palace. The single throne at the top of the palace had now become two, placed side by side on the highest platform. Seeing this, Qin Hao did not decline and directly sat on a throne with the Ganwu Country Lord. Compared to the several-meter-high throne, Qin Hao's figure was not large, but after sitting on the throne, the aura he involuntarily exuded caused the 300 champions in the palace to feel a slight chill in their hearts. This powerful aura, this unparalleled might, was he really just a world lord? Had he already become undying or even comparable to a venerable? Amidst the thoughts of many, Qin Hao was lightly conversing with the Ganwu Country Lord. The content of their conversation was quite complex, ranging from law cultivation, Qin Ying's cultivation, and some insights from across the universe. After all, he was an ancient universe exalt, having existed for countless years. His understanding and knowledge of the universe were things Qin Hao did not yet possess. However, Qin Hao's insights into cultivation also surprised Ganwu Venerable. Law fusion, secret technique cultivation, and even fusion's secret techniques came easily to him, making Ganwu Venerable, an ancient existence, feel inferior. It should be known that Ganwu Venerable had existed for countless years and was an extremely powerful existence among the venerable level. His knowledge was top tier among human venerables. He had witnessed countless geniuses and countless powerhouses. However, a powerhouse who could have certain achievements and deep comprehension in various laws, the only one he could think of was the origin ancestor from back then. Their conversation did not avoid the 300 champions of the Ganwu Universe Country in the main hall. The crowd listened to Qin Hao and the Ganwu Country Lord's conversation, initially not paying too much attention. But as the discussion on law comprehension deepened, everyone pricked up their ears, listening intently to their conversation, some even directly entering a state of cultivation. These champions were undying-level powerhouses. To become undying meant having good talent in the universe. Even without attaching themselves to a universe country lord or major power, they could live freely in the universe, becoming a carefree powerhouse. The reason they attached themselves to major powers and powerhouses was, on one hand, to gain more stability and protection, and on the other hand, to receive guidance and cultivate faster. After all, beyond undying, every step was extremely difficult. Having a powerhouse lead the way and not having one were completely different states. Take Hu Yanbo, for example. He had good talent and some opportunities, but he was only comparable to a champion, and when facing his enemies, he could only be killed. However, under a major power or powerhouse, even enemies would have reservations, and there were also abundant resources. Babata's reaction when he first accessed the internal resources of the Virtual Universe Corporation clearly showed the difference between having influence and not having it. Chapter 287, Back to Earth. Chapter 287. Returning to Earth. 10 days later, Qin Hao and Gan Wu country lords ceased their discussion, but the people in the hall still felt unsatisfied. Their gazes towards Qin Hao had changed. Each of them was extremely respectful, no longer daring to harbor any doubt. To be able to sit and discuss with Gan Wu country lord in such a manner, and even take the initiative, with their later exchanges becoming difficult for the others in the hall to comprehend. After bidding farewell to Gan Wu country lord, Qin Hao left Gan Wu Star directly and boarded a spaceship heading towards Earth. So this is the Milky Way galaxy. I didn't expect it to be such a tiny galaxy. Proceed to Earth immediately. At the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, two figures appeared. The leading tall figure wore a strange battle armor adorned with tens of thousands of vines, his face covered by some of the vines, and a pair of eerie green eyes flickered with strange light. Yes, master. As soon as he finished speaking, a spaceship appeared before them. The two entered the spaceship and immediately plunged into the dark universe, simultaneously heading towards Earth. I didn't expect that Hurricane King to be Qin Hao of the Virtual Universe Corporation. What genius. Only a genius who has grown up has value. He can't control that supreme treasure right now. Inside the spaceship, Undying Venerable's eyes flickered continuously. News of Qin Hao breaking through to become an Undying and being Hurricane King had also reached various powers. Each of them was shocked by the information. A World Lord rank possessing the strength of a champion-level immortal, and now, having broken through to Undying, he should have already reached the Venerable rank. He could be considered a high-level combatant within the human race, truly a core member. However, with this thought came various other intentions. After all, most people had not known Qin Hao's true identity before, and there was no way to control him. Now that they had obtained Qin Hao's information, many people were preparing to take action. Undying Venerable was one of them, and he was the first to arrive in the Milky Way galaxy. Outside Earth, a spaceship appeared. Qin Hao stood on the spaceship, looking at Earth before him, filled with endless emotion. He had been away from Earth for thousands of years, and Earth had undergone significant changes. Compared to his last visit, it was much more technologically advanced. Moreover, many alien races had come to Earth. These alien races came thanks to Zhu Xin and the Luo family's business. Earth also had a very high reputation in the Ganwu universe country, attracting many alien races. Stepping out of the spaceship, Qin Hao flew directly towards Earth. Just as he was about to step onto Earth, Qin Hao paused, turning to look at a space outside the solar system. A spaceship appeared outside the solar system, and simultaneously, a vast aura, faintly perceptible, emanated, as if showcasing the power of its owner. Who is it? Why would such a powerful individual come to Earth? Qin Hao was still very confused. Although Earth was special on the surface, it was just an ordinary life planet, and it shouldn't attract powerful individuals. So, the purpose of this person's visit could only be for him. Thinking this, Qin Hao instantly teleported to a spot not far from the spaceship. The spaceship was enormous. Unlike the usual spaceships used by Undying for travel, this one resembled a sightseeing vessel. Its massive hull and various decorations, every material used was a top-tier alloy. And the most conspicuous position on the spaceship's hull bore a huge emblem, which was the symbol of Great Axe Battleground, one of the 5 great powers of the human race. As Qin Hao appeared via teleportation, the spaceship's hatch opened, and a person walked out from within. My master invites Hurricane King for a meeting. The newcomer finished speaking and immediately turned to re-enter the spaceship behind him, his tone filled with arrogance. Qin Hao didn't pay too much attention to the newcomer's arrogance and directly stepped into the cabin. He wanted to see who had such airs, and had even come directly to Earth to find him. Although Great Axe Battleground was the human race's largest power, the Virtual Universe Corporation was by no means weak, and moreover, he had already broken through to Undying, his strength already considered top-tier within the human race, so he no longer had too many reservations. Entering the spaceship, a giant throne appeared before him. On the 100-meter-tall throne sat a powerful individual wearing strange battle armor adorned with tens of thousands of vines. It was Undying Venerable. Upon Qin Hao's appearance, Undying Venerable opened his eyes, his pair of eerie green eyes looking at Qin Hao, while a vast aura emanated from his body, pressing down on Qin Hao. Undying Venerable, looking at the person before him, Qin Hao instantly knew his identity. He was a disciple of Great Axe, the creator of Great Axe Battleground, a universe overlord rank powerhouse, a very troublesome expert, and also the catalyst in the original story for Earth's exposure. However, there shouldn't be the plot involving Hong from the original story now, so why would Undying Venerable still appear here? Moreover, he came with such an imposing demeanor right from the start, clearly not here with good intentions. Hurricane King, hello. I am Undying Venerable of Great Axe Battleground, a universe overlord rank powerhouse. I heard you obtained a supreme treasure in the treasure land of Purple Thorn Island. I am willing to pay a price to exchange it with you. What do you think? Undying Venerable's tone remained lofty, mentioning the supreme treasure as if it were an insignificant item, and the exchange seemed like a favor. I have no intention of selling it. That supreme treasure aligns with my attributes. Even if I were to sell it, I would prioritize the human race. Qin Hao replied directly, without the slightest hint of politeness in his tone. He had no good feelings towards Undying Venerable, and now that he had come directly to Earth, his intentions were not so pure. If he hadn't returned to Earth, it would be hard to say what methods he would have used. Even if he didn't dare to act openly, just some small tricks would be something Earth couldn't resist. Are you sure you want to refuse me? Do you know why I am called Undying Venerable? As he spoke, Undying Venerable's aura became even stronger, and his divine body involuntarily expanded. The spaceship disappeared, and before Qin Hao, Undying Venerable's figure had already reached several thousand kilometers. The several thousand-kilometer-long divine body, with its vast divine power, directly enveloped a surrounding area of tens of thousands of kilometers, even completely space-locking the surrounding space. Powerful energy filled every corner, as if it would completely erupt in the next instant. HMPH, with your strength, you don't have the qualifications to make me bow. Saying this, Qin Hao no longer pretended to be weak. His divine body rapidly expanded. 100 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers. The 10,000-kilometer divine body, though only showing a part of his strength, already surprised Undying Venerable. As his divine body expanded, surging divine power instantly washed away Undying Venerable's aura and divine power, and the control over the surrounding space was completely shattered. Although Qin Hao had not fully comprehended space law, the immense divine power he wielded allowed him to directly break through Undying Venerable's control over divine power. Chapter 288, Battle Against the Immortal Lord Qin Hao was not surprised by the arrival of Undying Venerable. Even if it wasn't Undying Venerable, it would have been someone else, or even a universe lord. After all, a treasure was too important to the human race, and held too much attraction for powerful individuals. Although it was suppressed for now, how could the thoughts in everyone's hearts be so easily suppressed? Even with the temple Qin Hao had built on the peak of Thunder Island, some people still harbored a glimmer of hope. The current undying venerable was one such person. He just couldn't hold back any longer. Divine power surged forth, and the powerful divine power instantly controlled the surrounding space law. The space trembled, and then the surrounding environment rapidly changed. In the blink of an eye, after hundreds of teleports, the two had already arrived in a void region tens of light years away from Earth. Undying Venerable looked at the transformed surroundings, his eyes constantly moving, filled with shock. Such incomparably powerful divine power, such an understanding of space law, had this person become so powerful. However, Qin Hao did not give him much time to react. His body, tens of thousands of kilometers long, expanded again, reaching 100,000 kilometers in the blink of an eye. The massive divine body with divine power burning directly attacked Undying Venerable. Don't be too arrogant. No matter how powerful you are still just an Undying. I am Undying Venerable, a universe overlord-level expert. As Qin Hao attacked, Undying Venerable instantly reacted. He was, after all, an expert who had grown through life and death struggles. His universe overlord-level strength fully erupted, and he even directly used his treasure. Green light flashed on his armor, and tree branches grew rapidly as if alive, rushing directly towards Qin Hao's attack. Boom. A powerful collision sound rang out, and the surrounding planets were directly pulverized. Even space began to shatter. The battle between two universe overlord-level experts erupted at this moment. Qin Hao looked at Undying Venerable with interest. With his 100,000-kilometer massive body, Undying Venerable looked like an ant in his eyes. A finger pressed down directly on Undying Venerable, like a towering mountain, directly colliding with Undying Venerable's divine body. How can he be so powerful? Didn't he just break through to Undying? How can he have such strong strength? His genetic level must have reached the perfect genetic level, and even his comprehension of laws might have reached the peak universe overlord level. Undying Venerable felt the immense pressure on his body, constantly assessing Qin Hao's strength in his heart. To face a universe overlord so easily, his strength, divine power level, divine body, laws. None of these could be simple. Under Qin Hao's pressure, Undying Venerable's divine body showed signs of collapsing. However, as a faint green light covered his entire body, Undying Venerable's body instantly stabilized. At the same time, the faint green light spread upwards along Qin Hao's finger, even devouring Qin Hao's divine power to nourish itself. With a flick of his finger, he directly sent Undying Venerable flying. Undying Venerable's divine body instantly dispersed, retreating tens of thousands of miles before stopping and recondensing. HMPH, now that you've fallen for my trick, what does it matter if you're a peak universe overlord? In the end, you can only discard part of your divine body. Qin Hao felt the constantly disappearing divine power on his finger and the faint green light, his eyes filled with interest. Law of wood, space law, and a trace of water law combined, it actually has a trace of poison attribute, or a characteristic of devouring life. A very good combination. Instantly, Qin Hao had already completed the analysis of the faint green light in front of him. Divine power was instantly mobilized, and the faint green light instantly turned into nothingness. This time, I'll give you a lesson first, Qin Hao said, and a wisp of whirlwind formed in his hand. The moment it formed, Qin Hao flicked it out directly, integrating it into Undying Venerable's body. This wisp of whirlwind was an application of Qin Hao's fusion of wind law, space law, and time law. Although it was only a trace, it would not cause fatal damage to Undying Venerable, but it was like a bone-sticking poison that could not be directly cleared, only continuously worn down with divine power. Furthermore, due to the unique laws, it was not an explosive burst, but rather kept Undying Venerable in a constant state of being scraped to the bone. This wisp of whirlwind would take at least 10,000 years to completely wear down. Without bothering with Undying Venerable any further, Qin Hao directly teleported away. Undying Venerable was left to feel the complex situation within his body. After the wisp of whirlwind entered his body, it began to move erratically. Undying Venerable could only continuously consume divine power to restrict the whirlwind's range of activity, finally trapping it. However, attempts to wear down the whirlwind or even remove it from his body all ended in failure. Every time the whirlwind was about to be completely removed from his body, it would burst out, completely dispersing Undying Venerable's divine power. Watching the whirlwind constantly consuming his divine power within his body, Undying Venerable could only choose to endure it. As for seeking trouble with Qin Hao, he no longer had any such thoughts. After only a brief exchange, he clearly felt the gap between them. Massive body, pure divine power, comprehension of laws, Qin Hao surpassed him in every aspect. Their recent battle was nothing short of a crushing defeat. Someone capable of such a feat was definitely not an ordinary universe overlord. Even a peak universe overlord might not be able to do it. He already possessed power comparable to a universe lord. Thinking of this, Undying Venerable couldn't help but be shocked by his own conjecture. An undying possessing power comparable to a universe lord, did such a genius truly exist? Was it real? He would rather believe that Qin Hao had already reached the venerable level to possess such strength. Alas! After a sigh, Undying Venerable directly teleported away using his divine kingdom. At this time, Qin Hao had returned to Earth. Although it was more technologically advanced, the overall style still retained Earth's original aesthetic, and Qin Hao could still see familiar shadows. He appeared directly in Yangzhou City. It was still the familiar streets, the familiar community. As the city where two legends of Earth had resided, Yangzhou City had hardly changed much. Only with the addition of technology had the living environment and transportation been altered. Walking along the familiar streets, Qin Hao unconsciously arrived at the South Bank community where his family had first lived. The original apartment buildings had disappeared, replaced by a more livable community. However, the surrounding environment had not changed much. Following the street, he strolled to Yin District 3rd Middle School and walked directly into the campus. The layout of the campus had changed significantly. The teaching buildings were taller, the sports field was more technologically advanced, and the facilities in the gymnasium were more cutting-edge. Currently, every student was at least a martial artist in cultivation, and many had even reached the God of War level. Chapter 289, 3,000 Years Returning to Earth. Qin Hao's life became simpler. He spent time with his family, traveled around, cultivated, and refined artifacts. At the same time, Qin Hao also established his own divine palace in the Milky Way galaxy, not far from Earth, allowing him to return home with a single teleportation. The divine palace complex was enormous, with the central palace towering hundreds of kilometers high, occupying an area of over 1,000 kilometers, surrounded by 365 other divine palaces. Below these 365 divine palaces were countless smaller divine palaces, with the entire complex spanning tens of thousands of kilometers. These divine palaces were also refined by Qin Hao during his artifact refining sessions. The smallest divine palaces were of the heavy treasure level, while the central divine palace was a supreme heavy treasure. The palace complex formed by these palaces was arranged according to the Great Zhu heavenly star's formation, constantly absorbing cosmic energy and gathering it. The entire Grand Hall was perennially enveloped in dense cosmic energy, resembling a celestial realm. Furthermore, as Qin Hao deepened his comprehension of the Great Zhu heavenly star's formation, its efficacy in arrangement also increased, with energy convergence being its least significant effect. Under the formation's blessing, each palace became a natural cultivation heavy treasure ground, with clearly manifested laws and a special environment, making it the optimal cultivation spot for cultivators. During his 3,000-year stay on Earth, Qin Hao did not relax his cultivation. His comprehension of laws showed no slack. His space law had already reached its final bottleneck, ready to break through into an exalt at any moment. However, Qin Hao was not in a hurry. Instead, he continued his comprehension of other laws and fusion laws. While breaking through to an exalt would bring a direct increase in strength, it would also become a constraint for further cultivation. An incomplete state, to a certain extent, offered an advantage in comprehending fusion laws and time law. Once comprehension was complete, a closed loop would form within oneself, and the receptiveness to other laws would significantly decrease. Moreover, for Qin Hao, whether he broke through to an exalt or not made little difference. If he wished to break through, his comprehension of fusion laws was already sufficient to support it. Although he did not directly break through to an exalt, Qin Hao made significant progress during his 3,000 years on Earth. The fusion of time law and space law reached the fourth stage, already achieving the level of a second-tier universe lord. Fusion laws such as gold space, wood space, water space, fire space, earth space, wind time, thunder time, and light time were also nearing perfection. Once space law and time law broke through, they would directly reach the seventh stage of perfection. Above these three types of laws, the fusion of wind, time, and space laws reached the second stage. The fusion of wind law, water law, and space law, the fusion of law of fire, light law, and time law, and the fusion of earth law, time law, and space law also reached the second stage. At the same time, Qin Hao made great progress in the fusion of the five elements laws and the wind, light, thunder laws, completing the first stage of fusion. From the perspective of law comprehension alone, Qin Hao's current strength was extremely powerful among universe lords. As for his overall strength, Qin Hao felt he was still within the range of a first-tier universe lord, capable of contending against a second-tier universe lord. Of course, the strength of Qin Hao's three clones also underwent tremendous changes. In Qin Hao's first millennium on Earth, his first clone had already broken through to the immortal level. In 1,500 years, the second clone broke through to undying, and in 1,800 years, the third clone reached the immortal level. Furthermore, all three clones broke through to undying after breaking through the perfect gene level at the genetic level. Their overall strength was not much different from Qin Hao's, and they all reached the point where they could contend against a universe lord. The three clones also had completely different focuses in their comprehension of laws. The first clone's 2x2 fusion of five elements laws and space law had reached its limit, similar to the main body, and was on the verge of complete comprehension. At the same time, in the mutual fusion among the five elements laws, there was significant progress in 2x2, 3x3, and 4x4 fusions. The overall fusion of the five elements laws was deeper than that of the main body, about to enter the second stage. Even the overall fusion of the five elements laws and space law had already crossed the threshold. The second clone's comprehension of time law and space law had both reached a bottleneck, ready to break through at any time. The fusion of these two laws had reached the third stage, about to enter the fourth stage, which was slightly faster than the main body. Qin Hao's fusion of space-time law had only just entered the third stage. The third clone's fusion of wind time, thunder time, and light time laws reached its limit, nearing completion. The fusion of wind, thunder, and light reached the second stage, and had already begun overall fusion with time law. The cultivation of the three clones was progressing rapidly. Moreover, the regions where the three clones were located were completely different. The first clone was still within the human race territory, while the second clone and third clone had already embarked on cosmic wanderings. The second clone was in the 9-Domain Alliance, and the third clone was in the Free Alliance. The 3,000 years were also a relatively comfortable time for Qin Hao. Since his battle with Undying Venerable, no one had come to trouble him again. Furthermore, 1,000 years after their battle, it was unknown who leaked the details of their confrontation. The crushing victory directly caused a significant change in the human race's attitude towards Qin Hao. Especially some universe overlords and universe lords who had originally intended to target Qin Hao no longer dared to make any moves. After all, no one knew the limits of an immortal-level expert and genius who could display the strength of a top-tier universe overlord. Moreover, in 1,000 years, the legacy Qin Hao left in primordial Chaos City had gradually been made public. From the initial comprehension by universe lords and universe overlords to universe exalts and undying powerhouses, Qin Hao's legacy shocked the entire human race. During this period, Qin Hao also joined the Great Alliance. Although primordial Chaos City Lord had previously suggested Qin Hao join the Great Alliance, Qin Hao had been delaying it. Now, he officially joined and became a 7-star member of the Great Alliance. Besides cultivation, Qin Hao was also continuously perfecting his divine kingdom. The vast divine kingdom had already exceeded 10 light-years in size. The outer perimeter of the divine kingdom consisted of 365 stars, each originally a transformed world, now evolved into small divine kingdoms. The 3 largest stars were already several light-years in size, while the smaller divine kingdoms also spanned hundreds of millions of kilometers. Within each divine kingdom resided a star god, serving as the master of the divine kingdom. They continuously comprehended laws, perfected the divine kingdom, and absorbed divine power to expand it. 3,000 years have passed. It's time to break through. Inside the divine palace, Qin Hao opened his eyes, and light flickered within them, causing the surrounding space to shatter directly. Chapter 290, The Venerable One. Chapter 290. Exalt. To become an exalt from an undying, one only needs to fully comprehend a higher law or reach the 4th stage of the beast god path. For Qin Hao, neither of these was an issue. In fact, becoming a universe lord would not be too difficult either. Currently, Qin Hao's comprehension of the space law was already close to perfection, and the fusion of the 3 paths had reached its final step, requiring only a little more insight to complete. His time law was not far behind, also needing just a period of comprehension to finish. It was also Qin Hao's deliberate choice to slow down his comprehension of these 2 higher laws, dedicating more effort to understanding other fusion laws, which was why he had not yet broken through to become an exalt. Now, after 3,000 years of accumulation, his comprehension of fusion laws had reached its current limit, and any further breakthrough would take a long time to achieve. Moreover, it required the time law and space law as catalysts. Therefore, he decided to directly break through to become a universe exalt. Having made his decision, Qin Hao immediately used divine kingdom teleportation to leave the Milky Way galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy was too small, and any large movement might cause immense impact to the entire galaxy. So, Qin Hao chose to break through directly in the area where the Virtual Universe Corporation was located. The Virtual Universe Corporation itself was extremely vast, and its surrounding areas had undergone special treatment. Even if the breakthrough caused a huge commotion, the impact would be very limited. Furthermore, with primordial Chaos City Lord and other universe lords as his ultimate safeguard, Qin Hao had no worries at all. Before breaking through, he had already informed primordial Chaos City Lord. After appearing at the Virtual Universe Company headquarters, Qin Hao instantly teleported to a void area on the outskirts of the Virtual Universe Company headquarters. This area, spanning hundreds of light years, was devoid of any living beings, and most of the planets were part of the star field rearranged by the Virtual Universe Corporation. Arriving on a desolate planet, Qin Hao sat down cross-legged and began to wholeheartedly comprehend the space law. From the planetary level, he had been exposed to the space domain and later the space law. While in primordial Chaos City, he had even comprehended all 108 essences of the space law. After entering the ancestral god tomb, his space law successfully completed the comprehension of the 3 paths. In the thousands of years since, and the hundreds of thousands of years within the Jianglan realm, Qin Hao's comprehension of the space law never stopped. Every detail and every profound aspect of the space law was analyzed and reassembled countless times. Coupled with the simultaneous comprehension of his second clone, Qin Hao could have already perfected his space law and completed the fusion of the 3 paths. However, to delve deeper into the space law, Qin Hao continuously deepened his understanding until now, when there was no longer much room for further research and discovery. Only then did Qin Hao decide to break through. The last trace of the space law, though tiny, was an indispensable part of it. What was once a slightly flawed comprehension began to become perfect as this tiny bit of law integrated. The space in Qin Hao's eyes also changed. Every inch, every node, demonstrated the profoundness of the space law. Peeking through a tube versus commanding the whole had a completely different feeling. With this completion, the space law became perfect, and new insights gradually arose in Qin Hao's mind. Although Qin Hao was still in the midst of comprehension, the law ocean directly descended from the void, and vast divine power continuously integrated into Qin Hao's body. Qin Hao's divine body also began to rapidly expand, and a colossal divine body, over 1,000,000 kilometers in size, appeared in the starfield. As the divine power continuously integrated, Qin Hao's body began to grow again, and the essence of his divine power also started to transform. A normal champion at the undying level possesses 100,000 times the power of a world lord. Breaking through to an exalt would reach 10 million times the power of a world lord, a 100-fold increase, bringing about a comprehensive transformation of divine power and body. Qin Hao's body became even larger, a gigantic body spanning millions of kilometers, directly drawing down a law ocean tens of millions of kilometers in size. The area within 1 light-year was affected by this law power, exceeding that of a normal exalt by more than 100,000 times. Furthermore, when Qin Hao became undying, his divine power was already very special, condensed from the divine power of the 8 lower-level laws. Now, with the addition of the space law's divine power, his original divine power seemed to be encased in a tough shell, beginning to fuse with the original divine power and rapidly improving its quality. While Qin Hao was in comprehension, his understanding of the space law gradually deepened, reaching the very core of the law. The moment the law ocean appeared, Qin Hao's divine body had already begun to continuously devour divine power. The 365 small divine kingdoms surrounding his divine kingdom also started to operate at full capacity, and the vast law ocean, under Qin Hao's influence, expanded again, reaching over 100 million kilometers in an instant. Immense divine power pressure spread outwards, and planets within 1 light-year were directly destroyed by the powerful divine power's impact. The breakthrough actually has such a vast might, it seems I underestimated his strength. Primordial Chaos City Lord was also shocked by the commotion of Qin Hao's breakthrough. A divine body of over 1,000,000 kilometers was unique in the universe. Even some special life forms known for their massive divine bodies would find it hard to compare. For instance, the Lord of 9 Nether's divine body was said to be able to transform into an ocean spanning 12 light-years, but his actual divine body was not that vast. Now, Qin Hao's pure divine body alone had reached such a level. Although he didn't observe it up close, Primordial Chaos City Lord could feel that the solidity of Qin Hao's divine body was unparalleled in the universe. Even Great Axe Creator would be slightly inferior. It seems the secrets he holds are even more numerous than imagined. Primordial Chaos City Lord had always known that Qin Hao had many opportunities, and that his body had reached the perfect gene level. However, the current might clearly exceeded the perfect gene level, which was impossible in the primordial universe, unless it was due to some special opportunities in the Universe C. But Qin Hao had never entered the Universe C, so how could he have obtained these opportunities? Qin Hao's trajectory had always been traceable, from Earth to Primordial Chaos City, then to the primitive mystical region, ancestral god tomb, and even to the outside territory battlefield. Everything was very clear. In the Law Ocean, Qin Hao continued to absorb vast divine power. At this moment, he also woke up from his comprehension, fully absorbing divine power to complete his transformation. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. The breakthrough from undying to exalt is a transformation of divine power. Generally, an undying's body transformation is only about 90%, and for some larger life forms, the transformation is even less. The golden-horned beast's conversion rate is only about 50%. Behind the huge disparity lies a gap in talent and strength. However, there will also be many subsequent problems. To continue the transformation, one needs to continuously absorb divine power and transform the divine body, or invest a large amount of resources to accelerate the divine power transformation. This cost is very high. For some exceptionally talented cultivators, the resources spent on completing the transformation can even rival a heavy treasure. For someone like Qin Hao, with such a massive divine body, the resources consumed would be even greater. Therefore, at this moment, Qin Hao dared not be negligent in the slightest. His divine body, divine kingdom, and the 365 divine kingdoms, along with the star gods within them, were all fully activated, and the speed of his divine body's transformation rapidly soared. Chapter 291. The Supreme Council of the Human Race. Qin Hao's divine body was rapidly transforming, and at the same time, his genetic level was also rapidly increasing. His 30,000-fold genes quickly grew to 36,500-fold, reaching their current limit. His divine body also became more inflated, reaching nearly 2 million kilometers. At the same time, the surrounding ocean of laws also began to show signs of receding, and the speed of divine power absorption was rapidly decreasing. Qin Hao's divine body transformation at this time was only less than 20%. Although the breakthrough was complete, if it was only 20% divine body transformation, this feeling of unsteadiness made Qin Hao very uncomfortable. "Come to me." With a soft shout, light flickered among the 365 small divine kingdoms around his divine kingdom, transforming into stars that appeared around Qin Hao. The 365 stars formed the Zhu Tian star array, covering an area of 1 light-year. After the powerful array was formed, a beam of light directly plunged into the ocean of laws, fixing the receding ocean of laws in place. The diminishing divine power also began to recover, and Qin Hao's speed of absorbing divine power accelerated again. And as Qin Hao moved, the surrounding time and space began to vibrate, and the entire universe seemed to fall into a state of silence, followed by a powerful will that began to revive. Original universe will. Although shocked by the scene before him, Qin Hao clearly perceived everything happening around him. His powerful soul and will completely condensed at this moment, and the power of the Zhu Tian star array erupted in his sea of consciousness. Light flickered in Qin Hao's eyes as he looked at the converging will, without the slightest retreat. The will of the primordial universe seemed a little surprised by Qin Hao's performance, but it quickly returned to its bottleneck, without much action. Instead, it condensed a point of light and shot directly towards Qin Hao, integrating into Qin Hao's body without any obstruction. Subsequently, the original universe will quickly receded. Universe creation. Feeling the information rapidly surging from the light in his sea of consciousness, Qin Hao was also greatly shocked. It was more like a legacy than a bestowed secret technique. The secret technique recorded the method of universe creation, and even part of the process of the primordial universe's birth. Although it was a secret technique, the current Qin Hao was still unable to fully implement it, mainly because his comprehension of laws had not yet reached the level of creating a universe. If he were to use it, he would not be able to fully create a universe, and the incomplete universe would quickly collapse. However, for Qin Hao, such a secret technique was still extremely valuable. Breaking through to true God and structuring his own universe was an inevitable path. Now, with the reference of this secret technique, Qin Hao could begin to perfect his universe structure from now on. After a full 10 years, Qin Hao finally completed all his divine body transformations, and the ocean of laws in the starry sky disappeared. Feeling the surging power within him, it felt as if he could destroy everything with a flick of his hand. At the immortal level, Qin Hao's basic burst could reach 3 billion times the World Lord's power, plus divine body amplification and law blessings, allowing him to contend against a universe lord. Now, with the quality of his divine power increased 100-fold, Qin Hao's basic strength alone reached 365 billion times the World Lord's power, already exceeding a First-Order Universe Lord. Under divine power amplification, his strength directly reached 36.5 trillion times the World Lord's power, already exceeding the standard of a Third-Order Universe Lord. Coupled with Qin Hao's own secret technique and supreme treasures, and his genetic level already exceeding 30,000 times, he could even fight against a Fourth-Order Universe Lord. As for Fifth-Order and Sixth-Order Universe Masters, he was still a bit weaker. The only thing he might lack compared to a Universe Lord was the privilege of time and space control. However, he was not far from becoming a Universe Lord. His comprehension of time law only needed a final bit of accumulation to complete the breakthrough. The most important thing now was to first experience the Venerable Level realm for a period of time, break through the 6 fusion laws of metal space, wood space, water space, fire space, earth space, and wind space to the 7th stage, and complete the fusion of laws. Upon reaching the Venerable Level, the star gods in Qin Hao's various small divine kingdoms could also escape by means of divine power avatars, becoming relatively independent entities and traveling within the universe. Moreover, due to the power of Qin Hao's divine power, each of these avatars possessed the combat power of a venerable level. The strongest star gods of the Taiyan Star, Sun Star, and Ziwei Star even possessed formidable strength comparable to a universe overlord, or even a top-tier overlord, making them strong individuals in the universe. However, these plans were not to be implemented right now. I didn't expect to attract the descent of the original universe will, and even be bestowed with a secret technique. Qin Hao's strength will likely need to be reevaluated. Primordial Chaos City, Lord quickly recovered from the shock of the original universe will's descent. Looking at Qin Hao, who had completed his breakthrough, he was also very curious about his disciple's strength. Before the breakthrough, he was already a top-tier universe overlord who could contend against a universe lord. Now that he had broken through to become a venerable level, his strength had increased by at least 100-fold, certainly comparable to a universe lord, but exactly to what extent could not be accurately estimated. However, Primordial Chaos City Lord did not ponder too much and directly teleported to a short distance from Qin Hao, then walked over to his side. "Greetings, teacher." Qin Hao remained very respectful to Primordial Chaos City Lord, his mindset unchanged despite the surge in his strength. "Not bad, even earlier than I expected. Your space law has already been fully integrated, and time law shouldn't be far off, right? There's still some distance, but I'm not in a hurry to break through. I plan to adapt to my strength first and continue to deduce the laws." Qin Hao also stated his intentions. The current situation of the entire universe was relatively stable, leaving him with ample time to cultivate and accumulate, constantly refining himself. If he broke through too quickly, it would not be a good thing for the human race. After all, a genius who rose too quickly would make other races wary, and might even directly trigger a full-scale war between races. For the current human race, even if such a war was victorious, it would only be a Pyrrhic victory. Therefore, Qin Hao planned to bide his time for a while, dedicating all his energy to cultivation. The 5 elements laws and the wind, light, thunder laws had already begun, and Qin Hao planned to push them forward with all his might for a period. Also, the fusion of time and space laws needed to be fully advanced for a period. The comprehension of other laws would be entrusted to the various star gods for their understanding. The state of these star gods was also relatively mature. Although they could not compare with the 3 avatars, they possessed a certain degree of independent consciousness and could comprehend laws. Especially when each of them meditated, they focused on the fusion of various laws as their core for visualization, so cultivation was not a problem at all. There's no need to rush too much. You still have plenty of time. Now that you've broken through to venerable level, your strength should have already reached that of a universe lord, and it's time for you to enter the core of the race, Primordial Chaos City Lord slowly said. I have already summoned all universe lords and Great Axe Founder, preparing to convene the human race High Council. Please make your preparations. Chapter 292, The Primordial Ancestor, Chapter 292. Origin Ancestor. There were two types of human race's highest level meetings. One was large-scale, gathering all universe exalts, universe lords, and universe strongests. These large-scale meetings typically involved major events that directly impacted all human race powerhouses and the interests of the human race. Other important events concerning the human race were mostly discussed internally by powerhouses above the universe lord level. Qin Hao's attainment of universe lord status meant the human race gained another universe lord level existence, which was a significant event for the entire human race. However, Primordial Chaos City Lord still intended to have Qin Hao remain hidden for a period. His rise was too rapid, making him an easy target for powerhouses from other races, and potentially even altering the balance of the human race. Therefore, Primordial Chaos City Lord only planned to disseminate news of Qin Hao's rise within the Universe Lord circle. He would only announce it to the entire human race once Qin Hao's time law broke through, and he truly became a Universe Lord. Qin Hao felt the same way. After all, the rise of powerhouses and geniuses was not just about individuals. It could directly influence the balance between races. One must remember that even a genius from the genius battle could be targeted by alien races. A genius who truly became a powerhouse might provoke a war to prevent him from fully maturing. With Qin Hao's current displayed talent and strength, reaching the peak of a third-tier universe lord at the Exalt level, he would absolutely be able to directly confront a universe strongest after becoming a universe lord. He might even recreate the glorious era when Origin Ancestor dominated the Universe C. Before the highest level meeting, come with me to the virtual universe to meet someone. Then, you can meet the other universe lords of my Virtual Universe Corporation lineage. Primordial Chaos City Lord's words piqued Qin Hao's interest. Meeting someone so formally likely meant Origin Ancestor. As for the other universe lords of the Virtual Universe Corporation, most of them were also Origin Ancestor's disciples. Yes, teacher. Within the virtual universe, Qin Hao stood in Primordial Chaos City Lord's palace. The surrounding void rapidly changed, and the divine hall disappeared. The two appeared in a void with no matter present, only outwardly manifested laws. Besides the 10 great laws of metal law, wind, lightning, light, time, and space, there were also various fusion laws. The 8 fusion laws of the Beast God path were completely fused along with various other fusion laws: water wood, metal wood, water fire, water earth, wind earth. Various laws combined, and these combinations made Qin Hao marvel at Origin Ancestor's power, to be able to dominate the Universe C, and even contemplate seizing the original universe will. Origin Ancestor's comprehension of laws far exceeded imagination. These fusion laws, 2-law fusions, 3-law fusions, and 4-law fusions were not uncommon. The entire void resembled the universe origin itself. Let's go, Primordial Chaos City Lord said to Qin Hao. Qin Hao also awoke from his immersion in the laws and followed Primordial Chaos City Lord deeper into the void. The one you are about to meet is my teacher, also the founder of the Virtual Universe Corporation, the creator of the virtual universe, and is known as Origin Ancestor by the human race. As he spoke, Primordial Chaos City Lord couldn't help but feel a touch of sadness. Although Origin Ancestor did not die, he was suppressed by the original universe will, and could only be awakened for brief interactions on rare occasions. Now, with the human race gaining another universe lord, and a direct descendant of the virtual universe lineage, coupled with Qin Hao's own comprehension of various fusion laws, Primordial Chaos City Lord decided to bring Qin Hao to meet Origin Ancestor. Walking in the void, Qin Hao had the illusion of walking in the origin of the primordial universe. The rich law aura and various fusion laws were something he hadn't even sensed in the origin of the primordial universe. At this moment, Qin Hao was unsure whether origin ancestor being suppressed by the original universe will was good or bad. He lost his freedom, but he was also closer to the origin of the primordial universe. Origin ancestor's strength now must have surpassed his past self. After all, for the primordial universe, not killing origin ancestor meant that origin ancestor's existence had some significance, or rather, was useful to the primordial universe. If not for Luo Feng, origin ancestor might have been the primordial universe's trump card against the world beasts. Soon, led by primordial chaos city lord, Qin Hao arrived at the very core of the void. On a massive divine throne sat a man, dressed in a long robe. His figure was not imposing, but he exuded an extremely profound and obscure aura. The 10 great laws revolved around him, imbued with a rich origin aura. Qin Hao felt as if he was facing the universe origin itself. Greetings, teacher. Greetings, grand teacher. Following behind primordial chaos city lord, Qin Hao respectfully bowed. Whether it was his immense strength, his contributions to the human race, or the connection between them, Qin Hao deeply admired origin ancestor. The universe strongest in the universe C, the only 10th tier true god in the universe C, who created the 10th tier secret technique, the virtual universe. If he hadn't attempted to seize the virtual universe at the end, he might have already reached the void true god, or even eternal true god, stage. Compared to powerhouses like Zuo Shank, who fell from their peak and gradually grew stronger again, origin ancestor achieved his unparalleled strength through his own talent. Primordial chaos, is this the disciple you mentioned? He is indeed outstanding. At the exalt level, he already possesses such strength, and his comprehension of fusion laws has also embarked on the right path. Our human race has hope. Qin Hao, the path of fusion laws is long, yet it is also a smooth road. I hope you can persevere. As he spoke, a ray of light flickered from origin ancestor's fingertip, rapidly condensing into a flash that appeared before Qin Hao. After the flash appeared, origin ancestor's figure began to blur, and the surrounding area began to tremble, as a wave of repulsive force swept through. The environment rapidly changed, and Qin Hao and primordial chaos city lord's figures had returned to the divine hall on Thunder Island. Looking at the light point in his hand, Qin Hao's soul power directly probed into it, as if entering an ocean of laws. Various fusion laws appeared before Qin Hao, incredibly clear and profound, causing him to involuntarily fall into comprehension. Origin, ancestor's comprehension of fusion laws was more extensive than Qin Hao's. After all, his more direct contact with the origin of the primordial universe, coupled with countless years spent alleviating boredom, meant that the fusion of various laws became a game to pass the time. Qin Hao had not expected to receive such a precious gift from origin ancestor. Although it was only a portion of cultivation experience and attempts at fusion laws, for Qin Hao, it could save a significant amount of accumulation time. With a clear path, and with the blessings of primordial violet Kai, enlightenment cushion, fragments of the creation jade tablet, and other fortunes, Qin Hao was confident in completing the cultivation of fusion laws more quickly. Completing the first step of the 10 great laws fusion before becoming a true god. Chapter 293, The Strong Men of the Virtual Universe Company Inside the Temple. Qin Hao awoke from his brief enlightenment, and the faint light in his hand was directly put away. In a moment, several universe lords from Virtual Universe Corporation will arrive. You should get to know them. Currently, including you, our Virtual Universe Corporation has 6 universe lords. 2 of them are my junior brothers, Ice Peak Lord and Darkness Lord, and 1 is Yahoo Master, Darkness Lord's disciple. Your becoming a universe lord also helps me regain some ground. The last one is Lord of Dragon Travel, who is the owner of the Yubeatang. Before the Giant Axe meeting, we, the members of Virtual Universe Corporation, will gather first to also inform you about the situation of other universe lords in our human race. As they spoke, the 2 had already arrived at the deepest part of Thunder Island in the virtual universe. A majestic, ancient, gray circular table was surrounded by endless currents of air. Around this gray stone table were 6 enormous stone chairs, and the back of each stone chair was intricately carved. Even the gray stone table itself had numerous carvings, depicting various scenes. "This chair will be your position from now on," Primordial Chaos City Lord said to Qin Hao, pointing to the second seat on his left, and at the same time he also sat down directly. Qin Hao looked at the stone table in front of him, which was carved with various scenes. In the scenes, 3 strong individuals respectfully saluted one strong individual, a single strong individual slaughtered in all directions, and 2 strong individuals joined forces to attack a group of strong individuals. The carvings were very abstract, but one could vaguely discern Primordial Chaos City Lord among them. Furthermore, the back of each stone chair was also carved with many scenes. Qin Hao's chair back was carved with scenes of him fighting on the outside territory battlefield, refining the inherent steel, becoming a venerable, the star palace in the Milky Way galaxy, and even his first time going to Primordial Chaos City to comprehend. All the scenes were connected, illustrating Qin Hao's journey. The other 5 stone chairs also had similar carvings, but their experiences were different. The human race's highest resolution has approved you as the 19th Universe Lord. Previously, the entire human race had 18 Universe Lords. Our Virtual Universe Corporation and Great Axe Battleground each had 5, Universe Mercenary Alliance had 3, Universe First Bank had 3, and Universe Galaxy Bank had 2 Universe Lords. Now that you have become a Universe Lord, our Virtual Universe Corporation has become the faction with the most Universe Lords. Once we are all assembled, we will go to the Great Axe Temple to commence the Giant Axe meeting, where you will be introduced to the other Universe Lords, and your title will be confirmed. You can think about it now and make a decision. Qin Hao did not pay too much attention to this. Since the resolution had already been made, the upcoming Giant Axe meeting was mostly just for him to get to know other powerful individuals of the human race and to exchange some words. There wasn't much else to it. A moment later, a burly figure with a long dragon tail walked over. The figure was tall and robust, the scales on his dragon tail shimmered, and his eyes seemed to contain the entire universe. It was Lord of Dragon Travel. Although Lord of Dragon Travel was not Origin Ancestor's disciple, he was a strong individual who had followed Origin Ancestor very early on, and he was also a peak-level strong individual among the Universe Lords. Although it was unclear exactly which stage Universe Lord he was from his current performance, he had to be at least a 4th stage Universe Lord. Lord of Dragon Travel. Qin Hao stood up and greeted him. Qin Hao. Lord of Dragon Travel's voice was very deep, and he appeared very composed. City Lord. After greeting Primordial Chaos City Lord, Lord of Dragon Travel directly sat down. Now the number of Universe Lords in our Virtual Universe Corporation lineage has finally surpassed Great Axe Battleground. I've been annoyed with them for a long time. This time I want to see how ugly their expressions will be, Lord of Dragon Travel said, laughing heartily. Ha ha ha, indeed. Their expressions when they made the resolution earlier were quite amusing. Let's see if they'll look even worse at the Giant Axe meeting later. A voice came, and a figure walked over. He was tall and slender, with 2 upward curving horns on each ear, resembling 2 sickles. There was also an eye on his forehead, and he wore a set of scale-like dark green armor all over his body. Because he was in the virtual universe, he was not carrying his signature Yahoo thorn on his back. Yahoo Master. Seeing the newcomer, Qin Hao recognized him. It was indeed Yahoo Master. Although he was a junior like himself, Yahoo Master's combat power was not weak. Senior Martial Brother. After greeting Primordial Chaos City Lord, Yahoo Master also sat down. However, before the few could converse, a cold aura permeated the air, and a silver-haired man with graying temples, carrying a battle sword on his back, walked over. He wore ancient blood-stained armor, and simply from his appearance. At least among the 6 Universe Lords of Virtual Universe Corporation, this Ice Peak Lord should be the most handsome. Ice Peak Lord nodded slightly towards Primordial Chaos City Lord, then sat down directly, his gaze sweeping over Qin Hao, Lord of Dragon Travel, and Yahoo Master. Lord of Dragon Travel, Qin Hao, and Yahoo Master all nodded slightly when their eyes met his. As soon as Ice Peak Lord sat down, a figure walked over from a distance. Before the figure could be clearly seen, an eerie dark aura permeated the air. From the endless currents of air, the figure became clear. He simply wore a black outer coat, and inside the black outer coat was a strange silver and black combined armor. He was bald, with skin as white as jade, and extremely bizarre and complex black secret patterns on his head. To whomever he looked, it was as if a venomous snake in the dark was flicking its tongue behind their neck. "Senior brother, is this your disciple, Qin Hao?" Saying that, Darkness Lord looked at Qin Hao. Qin Hao felt an eerie song echoing in his mind, but before it could affect him, it vanished instantly. Indeed, his soul is extremely powerful. As expected, he is a genius highly regarded by Master. Saying that, Darkness Lord also sat down. "Greetings, Martial Uncle Darkness, Martial Uncle Ice Peak," Qin Hao said respectfully to the two. Although he was not familiar with Darkness Lord, he knew something about his personality. As for Ice Peak Lord, Qin Hao was much more familiar with him, as he was the master of his first clone. The first clone had a lot of contact with him, especially as Kong Xuan's cultivation grew increasingly rapid. Although he had not yet broken through to Venerable, his strength had already reached the level of a universe overlord. As long as he breaks through to become a Venerable, he will definitely be able to reach the level of a universe lord. However, the first clone is currently focusing more on the fusion of the 5 elements laws. Although the first clone's talent is extremely high, it still cannot compare to the main body. After all, Qin Hao's genetic level has already reached 36,500 times, and he also has the assistance of primordial violet Kai, fragments of the creation jade disc, and other spiritual items. Chapter 294. The founder of the Great Axe to have another universe lord born is a blessing for my virtual universe lineage, and also a blessing for our human race, Primordial Chaos City Lord said with a smile. Moreover, among us 6, my disciple's survival ability is probably among the top tier. Primordial Chaos City Lord's words also attracted the attention of several people. Besides formidable strength, a strong ability to preserve one's life is also crucial for every strong individual. To be praised as top tier by Primordial Chaos City Lord meant that Qin Hao could survive even when facing a universe strongest. The other few also simultaneously looked at Primordial Chaos City Lord, waiting for Primordial Chaos City Lord to provide further clarification. Qin Hao possesses the ability of a clone, and when he broke through, his divine body exceeded 1,000,000 kilometers. The solidity of his divine power is no less than yours or mine. Besides this, Qin Hao is also an artifact refiner. The Book of Life and Death from before was refined by him, and his comprehension of arrays is extremely strong. His comprehension of laws is also very strong. The 9 inheritance stone tablets and secret technique in Primordial Chaos City 3,000 years ago were all created by him. A divine body of 1,000,000 kilometers. How is that possible? Darkness Lord and the others were also extremely shocked. A body of 1,000,000 kilometers had never appeared in the universe. Even Lord of Nine Nether's divine power ocean was incredibly vast, benefiting from the unique nature of his life, which was an extremely massive life form. But for the human race, and even most life forms, a divine body of a few hundred meters, 1,000 meters, or even 1,000 kilometers or 10,000 kilometers was already the limit. Even reaching the perfect gene level made it very difficult to achieve such a state. Even Lord of Nine Nether only possessed such a massive divine power ocean in Hisia transformation state. It was very difficult to break through the limit under normal circumstances. Qin Hao had always been a pure human race, yet he possessed a divine body exceeding 1,000,000 kilometers, which was unimaginable. And Qin Hao himself was actually a bit uncertain about this, as in the original work, Lord of Nine Nether's divine power ocean was calculated in light years, and there were also many special life forms whose bodies reached hundreds of millions of kilometers. However, in the God power route, the limit for a divine body at the first level, 30,000 times genes, was 1 million kilometers. The limit for the second level was 100 million kilometers, and the highest level, 100,000 times genes, had a body diameter limit of 12 light-years. This was clearly different from some life levels in the primordial universe. The primordial universe could not nurture life forms exceeding the perfect gene level. So, the divine bodies of special life forms like Lord of Nine Nether were, to some extent, more like a divine power reserve rather than the divine body itself. After all, whether it was Lord of Nine Nether, Lihuo Mountain, or World Tree, these special life forms with massive bodies, while their bodies were very large, the divine bodies they could form to move around were very limited. When Qin Hao met Lord of Nine Nether in ancestral God secret realm, he also made some judgments. After all, a divine body of several light-years would be very difficult to move even for a universe strongest. The million-kilometer divine body shocked Darkness Lord and the others, and they began to reevaluate Qin Hao's strength. The human race's highest-level meeting is about to begin. Before that, Qin Hao, have you decided on your title as a Universe Lord? Hurricane King is just your disguised identity. Relatively few people know your true identity. If you were to publicly use the identity of Hurricane King, you would be known as Hurricane Lord. Of course, you can also change it yourself. Most Universe Lords change to new titles after becoming a Universe Lord. Qin Hao nodded, pondering his title. He hadn't given it much thought before. If he remained Hurricane Lord, it would save a lot of trouble. Alternatively, titles with Earth characteristics, such as Yan Huang Lord or China Lord, would also be good. Star Palace Lord. Finally, Qin Hao uttered the name Star Palace Lord, using his current residence as his title. Star Palace would also serve as his permanent residence in the future, and Star Palace was also a palace supreme treasure crafted by Qin Hao. The main hall had already reached the level of a peak supreme treasure, and the other palaces had also entered the threshold of supreme treasures. When connected together, coupled with the augmentation of the Zhu-Tian star array, it was comparable to some supreme treasures, which was not a problem. In the coming period, Star Palace would also be his primary supreme treasure. Naming it after this was quite fitting. In the endless darkness, faint starlight flickered in the distance, and a simple divine hall floated in midair. In front of the divine hall, on a not too large open space, there was a long stone table. On the main seat of the long stone table, there was only one stone chair, while on both sides, there were rows of stone chairs. And at this moment, majestic figures were already seated on these stone chairs. I didn't expect another Universe Lord to appear in our human race, and such a young one at that. This time, Virtual Universe Corporation is going to get the upper hand on your Great Axe battleground, Void Gold. Lord of Barren Mirror said to Lord of Void Gold opposite him, while seated on a stone chair. Lord of Void Gold, as the Universe Lord of the Great Axe battleground lineage, was also the Universe Lord who usually presided over the Great Axe battleground. After all, Great Axe founder, as a universe strongest, spent more time adventuring outside, and Lord of Barren Mirror, as the leader of the Universe Alliance, was also extremely powerful. Watching the competition between Virtual Universe Corporation and Great Axe Battleground, he couldn't help but want to provoke Lord of Void Gold. Although the human race was generally very united, there was still a certain degree of competition among the 5 great powers regarding their influence within the human race and the allocation of resources. After all, the resources within any race were limited, and they all wanted to contend for more resources, cultivate more strong individuals, and strengthen themselves. However, on major matters, the human race as a whole was very united. In the universe, any disunited race had already been annihilated in the struggles. Lord of Kingdong of Universe First Bank and Pengong Lord of Universe Galaxy Bank, along with other Universe Lords, listened to their conversation, their expressions unchanged, clearly accustomed to such matters. The conversations and jests among the Universe Lords had already become commonplace. After all, with endless lifespans and formidable strength, The only people they could converse with on equal terms were so few. For this situation, no one took it to heart. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 6 figures appeared almost simultaneously, precisely the 6 strong individuals of the virtual universe lineage led by Primordial Chaos City Lord. Primordial Chaos, Primordial Chaos. Upon seeing Primordial Chaos City Lord, each of the universe lords greeted him. Among the human race, the strongest were Great Axe Founder and the suppressed Origin Ancestor. After these two, it was Primordial Chaos City Lord. Moreover, Primordial Chaos City Lord had gained everyone's recognition through his fairness, so his status was naturally higher and he was more respected. Darkness, you've come too, how rare. While conversing, Primordial Chaos City Lord and the others also took their seats one after another. The 6 universe lords of the Virtual Universe Corporation lineage sat down in order. After Qin Hao and the others were seated, a brawny man with disheveled hair, like a wildman, appeared and sat on the main seat. Chapter 295, Perfecting the Inheritance. Chapter 295, Perfecting the Legacy. After Great Axe Founder sat down, everyone quieted down and looked at him. Although there was some competition between the various factions, they all held Great Axe Founder, the human race's strongest, in great reverence. Back then, when Origin Ancestor was sealed and suppressed by the original universe will, the human race's influence suffered a massive blow. It was the rise of Great Axe Founder that stabilized the human race, preventing it from being targeted by other races. After all, in the primordial universe, a universe strongest is already the peak of the peak, which also means they are very difficult to kill. As long as a race possesses such a strong individual, they avoid being coveted by more factions. Qin Hao also observed Great Axe Founder at this moment. With a wild, barbaric aura, his presence was incredibly condensed. Although his powerful might was reined in, Qin Hao could still feel his strength. Furthermore, this was only within the virtual universe and not fully displayed. However, Qin Hao was even more curious that the virtual universe could restore Great Axe Founder's virtual avatar to such an extent. Origin Ancestor's law comprehension must far exceed that of an ordinary universe strongest. No wonder Hongjun receives so much attention. Qin Hao thought of Hongjun, who had an aura similar to Great Axe Founder, indicating they were of the same race. Coupled with Hongjun's displayed talent, his future growth potential is highly regarded. Within Great Axe Founder's race, besides Great Axe Founder himself, there are currently several universe exalts. With Hongjun's talent, the possibility of him becoming a universe exalt is very high. It's been a long time since our human race saw a scene like this. Haha, all universe lords gathered together, Great Axe Founder said with a laugh after looking around. The universe lords on both sides of the long table also chuckled. Opportunities for human race strong individuals to gather are rare. Usually, such gatherings only occur for matters directly affecting the human race's development. Even when Qin Hao contributed the Book of Life and Death last time, the universe lords only made a decision and did not hold a meeting. We are gathered here today to collectively welcome Qin Hao as one of us, Great Axe Founder said, looking at Qin Hao. From today onwards, the human race gains another universe lord. Qin Hao not only possesses avatars, but his divine body is also incredibly massive, giving him a survival capability that ranks among the top 10 in the universe. What surprises me even more is Qin Hao's talent in laws. The 9 new legacy steals in Primordial Chaos City have already brought 8 universe exalts and 2 universe overlords to the human race. Several top universe overlords have also found opportunities for breakthroughs. Our human race is poised for an explosion. Upon hearing Great Axe Founder's words, some universe lords even quietly discussed among themselves. Both his powerful survival capability and his talent in laws were enough to astonish them. It has been 3,000 years since the 9 legacy steals appeared, but mostly, the legacy has only been conducted within the Virtual Universe Corporation, with other major factions not yet fully participating. However, they had not expected such significant changes in just 3,000 years. According to the human race's rules, Every individual who becomes a universe lord will receive a treasure equivalent in value to a top-tier ultimate treasure weapon gifted by the race. Qin Hao, what are your requirements? Hearing this, Qin Hao couldn't help but marvel at the race's power. Directly gifting a top-tier ultimate treasure-level weapon is a condition that only peak races in the primordial universe can offer. However, Qin Hao didn't have much need for top-tier ultimate treasures. He already possessed quite a few. Moreover, he could refine ultimate treasures himself. Although the quality was not yet entirely stable, with breakthroughs in his cultivation, his refining skills would also improve, and refining top-tier ultimate treasures was already something he could attempt. Qin Hao, just state your request. Great Axe Founder said, and all the universe lords looked at Qin Hao. I'd like to exchange the top-tier ultimate treasure for refining materials, Qin Hao said. For him now, refining materials were more cost-effective. Upon hearing Qin Hao's words, Great Axe Founder and the several universe lords from the virtual universe were not too surprised. However, the other universe lords felt a bit of pity and some incomprehension regarding Qin Hao's choice. After all, while many refining materials are precious, a top-tier ultimate treasure is one of the most direct ways for a universe lord to enhance their strength. Now, this new universe lord actually chose some refining materials whose final use was unknown. After all, there are many refiners in the human race, but those capable of refining ultimate treasures are extremely rare in the entire primordial universe. Someone like Zuoshank, who can refine ultimate treasures of supreme power, is absolutely unique in the entire primordial universe. The Qin Hao before them has high talent in cultivation, but how could he possibly divide his attention to comprehend refining? No problem. You can choose freely from the race's treasure vault. After refining an ultimate treasure, you can exchange it freely within the race's treasure vault. Primordial Chaos City Lord can directly grant Qin Hao this authority, Great Axe Founder said. The other universe lord's expressions began to change upon hearing Great Axe Founder's words. Refine ultimate treasures. Could it be that this Qin Hao can refine ultimate treasures? Most of the ultimate treasures Qin Hao had refined before were for his own use. The only book of life and death he contributed to the race was through Primordial Chaos City Lord, without revealing his own existence. Therefore, only a few in the human race knew that Qin Hao could refine ultimate treasures. After these matters were decided, Qin Hao's title was also settled, Star Palace Master. After some casual discussions about human race affairs, the numerous universe lords dispersed. What are your plans next? Are you preparing to continue guarding the Milky Way galaxy? Primordial Chaos City Lord asked Qin Hao about his arrangements. First, I'll go to Primordial Chaos City to complete the cultivation of fusion laws. After completing the 7th stage, perfecting the secret technique and the legacy steals, I'll return to the Milky Way galaxy to guard it, Qin Hao said, outlining his upcoming plans. Now that space law has been fully comprehended, the cultivation of the 6 fusion laws, gold space, wood space, water space, fire space, earth space, and wind space, can be deduced to the 7th stage. After perfecting the final stage, along with the refinement of secret technique, the human race's legacy and fusion laws will be complete. Even those without cultivation talent in the beast god path will be able to perfect the path of fusion laws through these legacies, paving a way for the strong individuals of the human race. Of course, in addition to the legacy in law fusion, Qin Hao's secret technique for cultivating at the gene level has also reached a certain point. The human gene chart and cultivation methods have been deduced to the 300-fold level. Chapter 296, Human Genome Map, in Primordial Chaos City. During a 100-year period, Qin Hao had already completed the refinement of 6 types of space law fusion laws. Originally, Qin Hao's comprehension of these 6 fusion laws was already close to perfection, with only the final sliver of space law fusion remaining. Now that he had fully comprehended the space law, the final fusion of the 6 fusion laws naturally began. Within 100 years, Qin Hao fully comprehended the 6 fusion laws and also perfected his secret technique. Qin Hao also tried it out. With the augmentation of the will's secret technique and the fusion laws, he could completely reach the level of a Universe Lord. However, he did not possess the Universe Lord's ability to control space-time, and in terms of realm, he was only a peak universe overlord. After completing the inheritance, Qin Hao did not immediately leave the primal universe. Instead, he continued to finalize the human gene chart. As a project Qin Hao had been researching, he had never stopped refining the human gene chart, which included not only the study of certain racial genes, but also his own genes. After all, Qin Hao had been paying close attention to the process of genetic transformation ever since he evolved from an ordinary person into an innate Tao body, and then further refined it through the cultivation of the Crimson Bright Nine Heavens diagram. On this basis, Qin Hao continuously refined the human gene map. Furthermore, all research was conducted on the premise that it could be performed within the primordial universe. In other words, this human gene map could be passed down and cultivated. However, there were certain thresholds for cultivation. Even with the more than 300 times increase that Qin Hao had deduced, it was likely that very few people could achieve it. The cultivation of this secret technique still required certain opportunities, talents, and other relatively unique conditions. However, the initial 100-fold limit of the primordial universe had a relatively lower threshold, providing more growth opportunities for some cultivators of the human race. It did not require both resources and talent like the Blood River crystal. With the completion of the scroll, Qin Hao's genetic secret technique evolution was also perfected. Although the changes were still difficult to control, they would generally be in a relatively positive direction. Over 500 years, Qin Hao finally perfected the human gene map. The 365-fold genetic level was the current limit, and also the maximum Qin Hao could deduce at this stage. Going further, Qin Hao felt he needed to research more biological genes and delve deeper into his own genes. These could not be completed in a short time. The time required might be calculated in epochs. It's finally finished, and it's also the current limit. However, the current level is already completely sufficient for the race, capable of compensating for humanity's weakness in divine bodies and genetic levels, Qin Hao thought, feeling much more relaxed as he looked at the scroll before him. Although the human gene chart was not rejected by the primordial universe, it was very difficult to record it using ordinary methods. Qin Hao also underwent countless attempts, using some materials from the universe combined with some materials from the primordial universe, to complete the scroll in his hand. It recorded not only the process of genetic change, the characteristics of each genetic level, and the secret techniques for perfecting each genetic level. It contained a large amount of gene analysis, gene research content, and also a large number of cultivation secret techniques, as well as the materials needed to accompany the cultivation secret techniques. After all, the process of genetic growth is a process of self-evolution, a process of resonating with the primordial universe, and even a process of reconception. The content involved is extremely complex, and what is needed for cultivation is not only restrictions on cultivation, but also research and comprehension of genes. Furthermore, the current stage of cultivation is limited to powerhouses above the undying level, who can attempt it using their undying characteristics. Even so, there are certain dangers. A slight oversight can lead to failure. Although there will be no life-threatening danger, all cultivation will be in vain, and the divine body and divine power will be greatly affected, requiring an extremely long time to recover. At the City Lord's mansion, Qin Hao directly entered the inner city. The undying guards at the entrance respectfully saluted Qin Hao upon seeing him. Qin Hao skillfully entered the Chaos Ruins and handed the scroll to Primordial Chaos City Lord. Primordial Chaos City Lord was very puzzled as he looked at the arriving Qin Hao. 500 years ago, after Qin Hao completed the refinement of the inheritance, Primordial Chaos City Lord thought Qin Hao would leave directly. However, he did not expect Qin Hao to remain in Primordial Chaos City and choose not to leave. Now, after 500 years, Qin Hao actually came to him and handed him a scroll. Human Gene Chart. Opening the scroll, a line of characters entered primordial Chaos City Lord's eyes, making him even more puzzled. Upon receiving the scroll, its quality had already reached the level of a supreme treasure, and he had initially thought it was a supreme treasure. However, he had not expected it to be the Human Gene Chart. The human race had also conducted extensive research on human genes, but most of it was foundational, manifested in gene potions, bloodline potions, etc., with very little else. Now, Qin Hao had actually given him such a thing. What exactly was his purpose? With doubts, Primordial Chaos City Lord continued to open the scroll. Image after image, the interpretation of genes, the interpretation of genetic levels, and then surprisingly, the evolution of genes and cultivation secret techniques. Each secret technique and evolution process was extremely complex, but Primordial Chaos City Lord saw the possibility. Rapidly activating the virtual universe's calculation capabilities. The information from the scroll in his hand was quickly recorded by the virtual universe and began to be rapidly calculated. Within the virtual universe, a world quickly formed, and human bodies appeared one by one in the world, beginning to cultivate the secret techniques from the human gene chart. As the simulation began, the entire virtual universe was greatly affected, and in many areas, the virtual universe even became inaccessible. What happened? Why can't I log into the virtual universe? How is this possible? The virtual universe has never had a problem for countless years. Why is this happening now? Could it be that Virtual Universe Corporation has a problem? How is that possible? That's one of the 5 great powers at the peak of the human race. The changes in the virtual universe quickly caused a stir throughout the entire universe. However, under the control of various branches of Virtual Universe Corporation, it quickly subsided. After Virtual Universe Corporation experienced problems, many universe lords of the human race also came to the primal universe. The virtual universe was the foundation of the human race. Now that it had a problem, the universe lords had to take it seriously. Many universe lords in the primordial universe directly teleported through their divine kingdoms into Primordial Chaos City, arriving outside Primordial Chaos City Lord's chaos ruins. Primordial chaos. What exactly happened? What happened to the virtual universe? Did Origin Ancestor have an accident? Lord of Barren Mirror asked anxiously after entering the chaos ruins. Chapter 297, The Shock Brought by Qin, How All Universe Lords Gathered in Primordial Chaos City within the Primal Universe. The issue with the virtual universe was taken very seriously by everyone. Even universe lords not currently in the primordial universe sent their divine power avatars to Primordial Chaos City. Lord of Barren Mirror's question was also the question of all universe lords. The virtual universe concerned the entire human race. The human race's ability to rapidly develop and establish itself among various races largely depended on the virtual universe. There are no major issues. The virtual universe will be restored in 10 days, and I will explain everything to you then. For now, please ensure that you and your subordinate forces fully stabilize the human race to prevent any unrest, Primordial Chaos City Lord said solemnly. Seeing Primordial Chaos City Lord's serious demeanor, all universe lords instantly felt at ease. As the strongest individual below Great Axe Founder, and the human race's publicly recognized most impartial strong individual, Primordial Chaos City Lord managed human race affairs and the human race's treasury. His solemn response indicated the extreme importance of the current situation. One by one, they asked no more questions. After glancing at each other, they directly used divine kingdom teleportation to leave. The entire human race quickly mobilized. Strong individuals from various forces were dispatched to different cosmic countries to maintain order and ensure the stability of the entire human race. Although there was no virtual universe, with messages being transmitted via divine kingdom teleportation by numerous immortal-level strong individuals. Strong individuals from all forces quickly entered the various cosmic countries of the human race to control the situation within them. At the same time, large numbers of Undying entered the outside territory battlefield, and venerable-level strong individuals also mobilized, ready to respond to any potential unforeseen circumstances. 10 days passed in a tense atmosphere. All members of the human race were deeply concerned about the disappearance of the virtual universe. Especially in various cosmic countries and starfields, the movements of the human race's armies made everyone feel extremely nervous. However, despite the tense atmosphere, everyone gradually adapted. Aside from the absence of the virtual universe, nothing else was affected. The human race also reconnected using primitive communication methods. Although not as convenient as the virtual universe, they could still establish contact. Communication between starfields and within elementary cosmic countries quickly resumed. Within Chaos Ruins, Primordial Chaos City Lord's full attention was on the evolution within the virtual universe. He observed the changes in divine bodies within each small world, sensing the process of genetic level enhancement. Although the success rate was not very high, the basic level of popularization was very high. Even a small-scale improvement would be a significant boost for the human race. After all, a tenfold genetic level like the golden-horned beast in the universe was already extremely rare. Now, an Undying with sufficient resources and talent had a high probability of reaching tenfold. Those with extremely powerful talent could even reach a 100-fold genetic level. A very small number of individuals could even break the 100-fold limit. For the human race, this would be a transformation, and the strength of the human race's elite group would be greatly enhanced. Within the virtual universe, divine bodies in some worlds collapsed, but in others, divine bodies rapidly expanded and grew. The evolved worlds even included the various existing races of humanity, and the cultivation process of each race was meticulously recorded. However, among the many worlds, only one truly reached the extreme state of a 365-fold genetic level. Even just one validated the feasibility of the cultivation method. Mobilizing the entire virtual universe's computing power, countless virtual worlds were simulated, covering various human races. After hundreds of millions of attempts, the secret techniques trials were finally completed. This was also the purpose of the human race's virtual universe. Various secret techniques could be tested and refined through the virtual universe, minimizing losses from failures as much as possible. Observing the virtual divine body that had completed its 365-fold genetic level transformation, 365 nodes on the divine body were connected in a peculiar pattern. Is this the true nature of this secret technique? Primordial Chaos City Lord was also quite shocked now. The human race had methods to increase genetic levels, with blood river crystals being one of them. However, only a few could truly succeed, and even then, it was very limited. Furthermore, it could only reach 100-fold, which was already the limit. Currently, those in the human race who had surpassed 100-fold did so through possession or avatar methods, and they were only a minority. The gates of Chaos Ruins opened. The Universe Lords waiting at the entrance had been there for a long time. Seeing Chaos Ruins open, they all quickly entered. The virtual universe has been restored, and all forces can withdraw. After you have made your arrangements, I will explain the situation to you, Primordial Chaos City Lord said. The various Universe Lords also quickly took action. Strong individuals from various forces, dispatched to the different cosmic countries and human race generals, received orders and began returning to their posts. All right, Primordial Chaos, you can speak. All the Universe Lords looked at Primordial Chaos City Lord. Not long ago, Qin Hao handed me a human gene map, Primordial Chaos City Lord said, taking out the scroll of the human gene map. Everyone looked at the scroll in Primordial Chaos City Lord's hand, their eyes filled with curiosity. Although the scroll appeared simple, its grade was not low, reaching the level of a supreme treasure, especially considering that the entire virtual universe had been paused for 10 days because of it. Everyone was extremely curious about what content this scroll contained. A gene map. Is it related to genetic levels? Lord of Void Gold seemed to have thought of something and quickly asked. Primordial Chaos City Lord did not answer, but directly unrolled the scroll. On the long scroll were various diagrams, interpretations of genetic research, secret technique cultivation, required materials. The complex information made all the Universe Lords curiously examine it. The vast amount of content caused all the Universe Lords to involuntarily begin calculations, assessing the feasibility of this secret technique's cultivation. It can really be cultivated. Can humans truly break free from genetic limitations? Lord of Kingdong exclaimed, sensing the authenticity of the content within the scroll. Genes were one of the reasons limiting humanity's rapid growth. With low genetic levels, most people couldn't even reach the apprentice level after adulthood. Even among the undying, due to low genetic levels and physical limitations, they would be suppressed by other races. Now, with the existence of this human gene map, the improvement in genetic levels would bring about a tremendous change in the human race's strength. Even if each individual's improvement was limited, long-term accumulation would undoubtedly lead to the birth of a group of powerful genius-strong individuals within the human race. Chapter 298, Teaching Chapter 298. Guidance. The gene level is a highly valued aptitude in the universe. A golden-horned beast with a tenfold gene level can reach the World Lord rank upon adulthood, and once it breaks through to undying, it can become a strong individual among the undying. A powerful gene level means greater strength, enhanced aptitude, and stronger perception of laws. After becoming undying, it signifies a more powerful divine body. However, the gene level is also more difficult to change. Things that can increase the gene level in the universe are extremely rare and are strictly controlled. In the Blood Luo world controlled by humans, blood river crystals can only be used for personal consumption and cannot be sold privately. Taiwan Novel website has a large collection of books, read anytime. Moreover, even with blood river crystals, the desire to improve requires passing through numerous trials, and the demands on ones will far exceed those of the same rank. Even Luo Feng, the protagonist of the original work, did not have such a smooth experience when fusing blood river crystals, and it was fortunate that he had the ability of a clone. Now, such a diagram that can enhance the gene level, containing research and secret techniques on the gene level, caused the many Universe Lords to immediately begin discussions. In the current situation, there was no need to even convene the human race's highest council. Most of the human race's Universe Lords had already gathered here, representing the 5 great powers. The outcome of their discussions, to a certain extent, represented the decision of the entire human race. Furthermore, the power holders of the 5 great powers, such as Primordial Chaos City Lord, Lord of Void Gold, Lord of Barren Mirror, and Lord of Kingdong, were all aware that such a diagram would not be fully disclosed. Even some king-level immortal and venerables would not immediately have access to it. Initially, it would only be disseminated within a small scope, with the core members and true confidants of the 5 great powers being the first batch of optimal members. And even the most core members would practice in small batches, in staggered groups. After all, although this secret technique does not pose a threat to life, if cultivation fails, recovery still takes time. For the human race, the most important thing in the coming period is stable development. Both the human gene map and the inheritance of fusion laws require time to digest. After the core levels of various powers complete their cultivation, it will then be promoted to the core circles of the human race, such as king-level, immortal, and venerables. This is to ensure to the greatest extent that the secret technique is not leaked and is not known by foreign races. The human gene map is a secret technique only suitable for the human race. Other races would not be able to cultivate it even if they obtained it. However, once the secret technique is leaked, the human race will face targeting from various races. A peak race that can break the limitations of the gene level, even if the success rate is very low, must be stifled. Otherwise, the various races might face disaster. What's more, the human race itself is an extremely large race in terms of numbers. However, Qin Hao did not intend to interfere too much with the future arrangements of the race. Matters were too complex, and the balance of various powers also needed to be considered. Qin Hao did not want to think about these issues. For him, the most important things were cultivation and growth. As for the tedious matters, he would leave them to Primordial Chaos City Lord to handle. After handing over the human gene map to Primordial Chaos City Lord, Qin Hao had already used Divine Kingdom teleportation to return to the Star Palace in the Milky Way galaxy. Subsequently, he directly sent a message to his disciple, Rokas, instructing him to come to the Star Palace directly after his training ended. Rokas had now reached the World Lord rank, and he had gained some understanding of the Law of Light, Law of Fire, and Time Law. However, he was still far from the fusion of the three laws. Qin Hao's guidance to Rokas was mostly conducted in the virtual universe, and it leaned more towards answering questions. After all, Qin Hao's time was mostly spent on his own cultivation, and he didn't have much time truly dedicated to Rokas. This time, summoning Rokas was also to provide him with more systematic guidance. The World Lord rank is the most important stage for law cultivation, and Qin Hao was preparing to guide Rokas to begin the fusion of the three laws. At the same time, he also planned to teach Rokas to cultivate the human gene map to improve his gene level. After all, he was his disciple, and these secret techniques of his still needed to be cultivated. Within his sea of consciousness, Qin Hao once again arrived at the check-in interface. After the last upgrade, although the interface was still very simple, it was finally a bit different. Especially the improvement in rewards made Qin Hao even more confident. The Pangu's blood energy, which was the reward from the previous check-in, was still continuously absorbing divine power within Qin Hao's body, forming blood beads. The aura it emitted was also becoming stronger, as if something was being nurtured. Furthermore, all of Qin Hao's comprehension of laws also permeated onto the blood beads. The mysterious patterns on the blood beads were constantly being completed, appearing very mysterious. Although he didn't know what kind of changes would happen next, Qin Hao could feel that these blood beads might affect his future growth. Relaxing his mind, he directly pressed the check-in button. Check-in successful. Check-in cultivation, venerable. Check-in reward, cultivation method. Stellar transformations. As a stream of light merged into his sea of consciousness, Qin Hao began to study the check-in reward. Stellar transformations is the cultivation method of the protagonist Qin Yu from Stellar Transformations. It was initially conceived by Lei Wei after observing the evolution of stars. Lei Wei originally only envisioned the astral rank, but later, after Qin Yu's improvements, he successfully created the universe, the Stellar Transformations. Cultivation method progresses from nebular right arrow meteor, right arrow star core, right arrow planetary level, right arrow tribulation, right arrow astral rank, right arrow dark star, right arrow black hole, right arrow origin point, right arrow Kainkun, right arrow universe. A cultivation method that can create a universe in one step. For the current Qin Hao, its primary use was the final creation of the universe. After all, from true God, void true God, eternal true body, and even to primordial chaos master and divine king, it is a long research process on the creation of the universe. From the evolution of a small universe, from a divine kingdom, to avoid true God being able to split off a small universe to cultivate true gods, to finally the divine king level, where one can control the chaos space within their body to evolve a small universe capable of giving birth to eternal true gods, thus opening up a universe. Although the worlds are different and there are differences in cultivation methods, for Qin Hao, it was more for reference. Whether it was the evolution of the universe, at the end of the stellar transformations cultivation method, or the early stage cultivation, it would be the most important reference for Qin Hao's future entry into the true God realm, when he opens up and builds worlds. One must know that Qin Yu was a Hong Meng controller-level existence. Hong Meng and Lin Lei, who were at the same level as him, were existences who created multiple universes. Moreover, the universes they created were clearly stronger than the primordial universe, even akin to existences like the Universe Sea and Origin continent. Thinking of this, Qin Hao couldn't help but curiously observe the stellar transformations cultivation method. The early-stage cultivation method was not difficult. After all, Qin Hao had cultivated all the way from planetary level, astral rank, universe rank, territory lord rank, and world lord, and the evolution within it was very clear. However, regarding the creation of a universe, it was not that simple. Even if the primordial universe granted the secret technique of universe creation, Qin Hao was currently unable to truly create a universe. Chapter 299 Roka's Suffering. On Earth, Qin Hao strolled along the streets feeling incredibly relaxed. His attire was simple. A short-sleeved shirt, long pants, and sneakers, coupled with his youthful face, made him look like a teenager walking home after school. After leaving primordial Chaos City, Qin Hao didn't linger long in the Star Palace and returned directly to Earth, where his life resumed its peaceful routine. Qin Hao cherished this quiet life. Most of his time was spent cultivating. Even when he returned to Earth previously, his cultivation never stopped, and he always felt a sense of urgency. It was only after this breakthrough that the urgency in his heart vanished, allowing him to more leisurely and freely perceive everything around him and enjoy life. Although it had only been a few months, Qin Hao could clearly feel the change in his state of mind, and even his soul power and will had greatly improved. This improvement delighted Qin Hao more than any increase in his cultivation. Qin Hao's will and soul power had already reached the level of a universe lord, and with the blessing of the visualization method and the 365 stars, Qin Hao was confident that no one in the primordial universe could harm his soul. However, his growth had slowed down considerably, even feeling somewhat stagnant, unexpectedly. By abandoning cultivation and everything else on Earth and returning to a primitive way of life, his state of mind underwent a transformation. Qin Hao had always paid close attention to his character. In the 18 years after his birth, his cultivation improved slowly, but his study of ancient texts never relaxed, and he gradually formed his own understanding of the state of mind. Initially, he was very mindful of the 3 realms of mental cultivation proposed by Hong in the original work. The first realm, clearing the mind to see one's true nature, pointing directly to the original heart. The second realm, unity of heaven and man, the heart of a newborn. The third realm, boundless heart, embracing all. The most representative examples were Luo Feng's first realm, Thunder God's second realm, and Hong's third realm, which could also be said to be the 3 directions of mental state under the entire world. Initially, Qin Hao consciously studied these 3 paths, and his state of mind also underwent a good transformation. However, as his cultivation deepened, Qin Hao's state of mind also changed, no longer following these 3 paths, yet without a clear direction. In the past few days, he had instead gained some feeling, a state of mind of freedom and purity. He even had some insight into if one can always be pure and tranquil, heaven and earth will all return. Just as Qin Hao walked into a shop, bought a bottle of drink, and was drinking it while walking, a message from the virtual universe pulled him out of his relaxed state. I didn't expect it to arrive so quickly. It seems I'll be busy for a while again, he murmured before Qin Hao vanished from the spot. Outside the Star Palace in the Milky Way galaxy, a spaceship emerged from the dark universe. Is this the Star Palace? Has Master already become so powerful? Rokas looked at the distant palace complex, his eyes filled with shock. He was no longer a rookie. In the several millennia with the Virtual Universe Corporation, he had grown from a universe rank to a world lord rank existence. He had undergone tempering in various secret realms and had also gone to a universe country to complete mission points. During his growth, he had met many powerful individuals, and there were quite a few undying powerhouses among them. Although universe lords were rare, he had seen many palaces of those universe lord rank powerhouses who suppressed entire secret realms. However, compared to the palace complex before him, the difference was not just a little bit. The aura of the entire palace complex even reminded him of how he felt the first time he went to primordial Chaos City. Controlling the spaceship to quickly approach the palace complex, Rokas stopped the spaceship about 100 miles outside the outermost palace and stepped out of the spaceship. A beam of light quickly shot out from the palace in the distance and stopped in front of Rokas. "Your Highness Rokas, please follow me." After the light stopped, its massive size greatly surprised Rokas. It's actually a monster race undying, and he calls Master Master, so he must be Master's servant. Rokas was still very surprised. Most monster race undying were huge and very powerful, making them difficult to enslave. He hadn't expected that even the one greeting him outside his master's palace was a monster race undying. Moreover, he could feel the power of the monster race undying before him. As Qin Hao's disciple, although he had just broken through to the World Lord rank, Rokas could already exert the strength of an undying army lord rank, and if his law comprehension improved further, he could even be comparable to a marquis. Although he was far behind Qin Hao, he was already among the top tier of human world lords. Following the monster race undying, he entered the Star Palace. The surrounding law aura suddenly became clearer, and the cosmic energy became even denser. As he passed through palace after palace, Rokas was gradually astonished by everything he saw. The laws became even clearer, no longer feeling like primordial chaos city, and the surrounding energy was even denser, tens of thousands of times that of the external energy. The energy condensed into a thick mist, and as he breathed it in, he felt a wave of comfort. Furthermore, along the way, Rokas saw powerful individuals one after another. Monster race, insect race, automaton race. If he hadn't been certain he was still in human race territory, he would have even thought he had arrived at an alien race's lair. Along the way, he saw over 100 alien powerhouses, each of them extremely formidable. And this was only a small part of the entire palace complex. The number of alien powerhouses in the entire Star Palace far exceeded those he had seen so far. What kind of powerhouse is my master? At this moment, Rokas couldn't help but reevaluate his master. Choosing to become a disciple in primordial chaos city was more due to his astonishment at master's comprehension of laws, and he chose to become a disciple, not expecting to succeed. At that time, his master was only a world lord rank powerhouse, but now, from what he had seen along the way, his strength definitely surpassed that of ordinary universe lords. Enslaving such a large number of undying powerhouses, and having such a vast palace and its modifications, were all things that the current Rokas could not comprehend. Upon arriving outside the main hall, the leading undying stopped and turned to walk towards the outer area. Rokas stepped into the main hall. The entire hall was 1,000 zhang high, with a very peculiar architectural style, yet every detail contained a unique charm. Upon entering the main hall, Rokas could feel the clarity of the surrounding laws increase again, and the energy concentration rapidly improved. The main hall was very spacious, with 365 stars floating above it, each moving along an abstruse trajectory. In the very center of the hall, on a massive throne, a figure sat on the throne, looking at Rokas as he walked in. "Disciple greets master." Rokas quickly bowed respectfully. Chapter 300, Hong's Plea for Help. Chapter 300. Hong's Plea for Help. Qin Hao sat on the throne in the grand hall, looking at Rokas, who entered the palace, feeling quite satisfied. Rokas's talent in comprehending laws was not weak. He had a good grasp of the law of light, law of fire, and time law. His understanding of time law alone was comparable to a marquis-level immortal. Furthermore, his comprehension of laws was very solid, constantly progressing along the path of the essence of laws. Excellent. For the next period, you can temporarily put all your tasks aside. I will give you 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, I will send you directly to the outside territory battlefield. For these 1,000 years, you will cultivate in the Star Palace. You don't need to worry about the Virtual Universe Corporation. I have already given instructions that all your arrangements will be decided by me. Qin Hao said at last. For the 1,000-year period, Qin Hao had a very full plan for Rokas. Besides cultivating his comprehension of laws, Qin Hao also intended to guide Rokas in cultivating the secret technique, of the human gene map. Although most secret techniques require reaching undying status to cultivate, with the enhancement of Qin Hao's evolution secret technique, Roka's could still be guided into cultivation. Before becoming undying, his gene level could also reach a certain degree. The final effect would still depend on Roka's talent. However, reaching several tens of times, his current level seemed relatively simple to Qin Hao. "Yes, teacher," Roka's respectfully replied. Roka's was very excited about his teacher's instructions. 1,000 years of guidance would greatly enhance his strength. Roka's believed his teacher's comprehension of laws was extremely powerful, and now he could directly command the Virtual Universe Corporation, indicating his status was definitely not low. "You will reside in the Sun God Temple to the left of the main hall. The Sun God Temple is condensed from the Law of Light, Law of Fire, and Time Law, and it was refined by me based on my comprehension of these three laws. There is an avatar of mine inside the temple. You can consult him once a year. Every 5 years, I will guide you once and check your cultivation progress." Qin Hao continued. The 1,000-year period was quite tight. Whether it was the comprehension of laws or the research and cultivation of the human gene map, both required a large amount of time. However, pressure brings motivation. If Roka's wanted to improve quickly, a sense of urgency was essential. Furthermore, Roka's had already accumulated enough, thousands of years of cultivating Time Law, Law of Light, and Law of Fire had given him many insights and sufficient accumulation. In this situation, after guidance, the transformation of these accumulations would accelerate. Moreover, the reason for arranging him in the Sun God Temple was that, after Qin Hao refined the 365 star palaces, he incorporated his and the respective star gods' comprehension of laws, integrating the law patterns and fusion laws' secret inscriptions into each palace. Within the temple, comprehending and inscribing the secret inscriptions would further accelerate Roka's cultivation. Although not as effective as the Chaos Steel, it was not far off, and he could comprehend it for a long time. Especially for Roka's, the Sun God Temple also contained a large number of fusions. Law of Fire and Time Law, Law of Light and Time Law, Law of Fire and Law of Light, and the fusion of all three laws, Time Law, Law of Light, and Law of Fire. Various fusion laws. As long as Roka's stepped into one of them, his strength would greatly increase. After making arrangements for Roka's, Qin Hao began his first guidance session with him. Roka's fully demonstrated his comprehension of laws and expressed all his doubts during cultivation. Addressing Roka's cultivation problems, Qin Hao began to guide him one by one, condensing laws with his fingertips and directly demonstrating them in the center of the hall. A red sun rose, with flames, light, and time constantly evolving. During the demonstration, the three laws continuously intermingled, and various fusion laws were clearly displayed before Roka's. These are the Law of Light, Law of Fire, and Time Law, and are those fusion laws. Roka's looked at the continuously evolving laws, feeling extremely shocked. He had always been exploring the path of fusion laws and knew that his teacher was guiding him onto that path. However, the difficulty of fusion laws was too high, the threshold too high. Even now, he had only grasped a tiny spark of insight and had not truly touched fusion laws. Yet, as the laws in the sky fused, Roka's felt that the faint spark he had originally perceived began to become clear. The Law of Light and Law of Fire actually formed a slight connection, though it was still some distance from full fusion. With a slight connection and tendency, the subsequent fusion was only a matter of time. Qin Hao looked at Roka's, who was immersed in comprehension in the hall, and nodded. Although he had only made some progress in the Law of Light and Law of Fire, the beginning is always the hardest. Once started, only a little growth was needed. After 10 days, Qin Hao stopped the evolution of the sun in the hall and ceased his lecture. With a wave of his hand, the sun in the hall disappeared and Roka's also vanished, reappearing directly in the Sun God Temple. Qin Hao stood up, ready to instantly teleport back to Earth to continue his leisurely life. Just then, a message arrived in the virtual universe. Qin Hao looked at the incoming message. There were no words, only a coordinate location. He only hastily sent a coordinate. It seems Hong has encountered quite a bit of trouble. Looking at the message, Qin Hao's heart couldn't help but grow serious. Hong's current cultivation was strong among world lords, having entered the primitive mystical region after several qualification battles. His comprehension of the law of light and time law was also very deep. Even facing a marquee-level immortal, he wouldn't lack time to send a complete message. Furthermore, after becoming a world lord, Hong cultivated in primordial Chaos City for a period, but did not immediately enter the outside territory battlefield or mystical regions for trials. Instead, he chose to wander and cultivate in the universe for a while. At this time, Hong should have been wandering in the universe. Although there were many powerful individuals in various universe countries, no one should dare to directly attack a core member of the Virtual Universe Corporation. Zhu Guang Universe Kingdom, Huh. After checking the coordinate location, Qin Hao quickly determined the whereabouts and, without hesitation, directly used Divine Kingdom teleportation to enter the Zhu Guang Universe Kingdom. After becoming undying, Qin Hao had also placed his tokens in various locations through the Virtual Universe Corporation, originally to prepare for future travels across the universe, but he didn't expect to use them so soon. The Divine Kingdom's light flickered, and Qin Hao's figure vanished directly from the Star Palace, appearing in the Zhu Guang Universe Kingdom. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and enjoying these novel audiobooks. Every subscribe, like, and comment helps us grow faster. If you love revenge stories, overpowered MCs, rebirth novels, and fantasy audiobooks, make sure to subscribe and join the journey.